After the thrills of Montreal 1 week ago, we head ourselves to where Formula One quite literally began. This is Silverstone, the airfield circuit set in Northamptonshire in England, and most of the Formula One teams are based within about 25 miles of this racetrack. It's changed over time. It used to be one of the fastest in the world. It's still fast here today as drivers are preparing for qualifications. They are out and they are doing it on a cold day here at Silverstone. You see that, just 23 degrees Celsius. Some high winds as well. It's overcast, and that will make things very difficult for the drivers. Let's get you then up to speed with qualifying. Your commentary team are Jonathan Simon, Jake Sperry, and Connery Maddock. Over to you, Johnny.
Thanks, Will. And throughout qualifying as well, we're always up for a surprise. Last year's pole position to Stephen Michaels, a 1 minute 20.441. This year, already pipped by a man named Josh Rogers, currently holding provisional pole with Sebastian Job behind. And here we are, Jake. Core Sim Racing out on top for the first 2 rounds, but can anybody knock them out on top? And based on last year's qualifying, who knows?
Who knows indeed. TTL Esports doing a very good job at the moment of proving to be at the top of the mountain, a 120 flat. I'm wondering if we're ever going to see 119 times here today with such cold conditions. Track just 22 degrees and a heavy southwesterly wind, 24 kilometers an hour, will be providing a lot of difficulties. And that's been proven by drivers trying to set up a lap. I've seen Alex Simpson of the Apex Racing UK machine try and go twice to start his first lap and not struggle. There's also the small case of a Jesse Niemanen wanting to set a lap time here today.
Yep, Jesse Niemanen, former World Championship driver. Welcome back to him as the times keep creeping in. They're coming in second by second. Now, Connery, this is a circuit that's very odd compared to your typical racetrack. It's very high speeds, very minimal braking zones. It really relies a lot on your aero balance here. And as Alex Simpson he's on the hangar straight, he's heading towards Stowe. It's just, we are using that Grand Prix layout with a bridge, and it's just a high speed, high challenge really for these drivers.
Yeah, it definitely is. You're running a little bit of a lower downforce trim here than you perhaps would at some other tracks to get that straight line speed, but in some places on this track, it does compromise your speed if you go too low on the downforce. One of those sections could be the Maggots and Beggots section, where you really do need a very good balance in the car to be very fast through there. But as the Apex Racing UK driver of Act System heads his way under bridge now, let's see what he can do, as this is his warm-up lap, so he still has a little bit of time to get himself back around. And right now, doesn't seem like anyone's going to challenge Josh Rogers just for the moment. We just had the lap time being set by Fredrik Rasmussen, only a 1 minute 20.3 though, so just a couple of hundredths of a second off his teammates, but 0.3 of a second off of Rogers.
So we're still seeing here the times coming in, and you see Josh Rogers right now, currently your pole position setter here at 120 flat here, heading himself into the left and the right. So looking to try and make that push through, as a lot of drivers struggling in these early stages right now. Time still coming down. Spolstra into position number 4 with a 120.461, and Rogers into this Abbey chicane, left then right, trying to set this run up the exit under bridge. Now right-hander, small little lift here, Connery, as he now heads into Priory, and right now Rogers maybe slightly missing the apex there at Priory, but still getting it nicely settled for Brooklands.
Yep, and what he's doing right now is just trying to look on improving his already pole position time as he heads out of Luffield on his final qualifying lap here. Let's see if he does improve on that 1 minute 20 point flat. And he does the exact same time as that. Another 1 minute 20 point flat for Joshua K. Rogers.
Wow.
And Frederick Rasmussen, he is on his last qualifying lap as well.
Yeah, very good lap as well. So there was the time that was there. Jesse Niemann as well, just looking to still try and set his first time as well. He hasn't been able to get anything sorted. What about, though, the driver of Riley Preston, who has yet to set a lap time in the 55, just 6 minutes and under left in qualifying, and he will go on to set this one qualifying lap time overall, and he's got no other alternatives here today, Connery.
Yeah, no other alternatives, and some of these drivers that still haven't set lap times, the likes of Riley Preston as well. Well, he's on his final qualifying lap, hasn't set a banker, and that is always a bit unnerving for some of your drivers. If you don't get that first lap in, well, everything is on this final lap to try and get you as high up the grid as possible.
Yep, so having a look at where these drivers are going to start to come now. Just having a look at Rasmussen, who's he's made a mockery of that last section at Luffield. Across the line for him, and oh goodness me, so his lap's done and dusted. I think he's had an off track. Rasmussen won't start any greater than 3rd at the moment, and that will be the first time this season we won't see a core sim racing front row. Boris Spolstra very impressive in 4th, Yuho Abe behind in 5th, who had a collision with the Wall of Champions at Montreal. He'll hope to do better this time round, but good to see Jesse Niemann out there, Connery. He's a 5-time World Championship winner, and he's just about ready to begin his lap.
Yes, he is. Meanwhile, Riley Preston coming to complete his lap as he heads his way out of Luffield. Number 55 going to head his way across the line to set his one and only time lap that he's going to get in this session. Where does that put him? That puts him P number 4.
Nice stuff from Preston there. And that's exactly what we want, Jake, from the ERT team, to put themselves up the order there and really impress, because they have a lot of drivers out here.
They do, and the colder conditions as Niemann goes off then at Chapel Corner, really struggling with the balance of the machine. What you see, though, from the Evolution Racing Team machines is that they will have less downforce if conditions stay like this heading into the race. They need as much help as they possibly can, but there are surprises out here today. For example, the 05 of Alex Simpson, currently only down in position number 13. He's got one last lap to make something happen.
Yep, so Alex, I don't think he really wants to win this championship, but to get into the top 10 in the end is his key. He's currently 5th in the standings. He's got DRS open. Past Stowe, one of the best corners in all of motorsport. Make sure not to run wide on the exit. And then so easy to lock up here and miss your braking point into Vale. That club just going through the right-hander, trying to get as much grip as possible. Second DRS zone here. It's very short, very optimistic, hitting it to the Abbey chicane if you want to pull off an overtake here. Straight lining Abbey as much as possible. Through Farm Straight, under the bridge, as we use the old layout of Silverstone. Alex Simpson running very wide here, but he needs a quick lap time here to climb his way into at least the top 10 for a good starting position at his virtual home race. Here he is, the Apex Racing UK driver, with only one more corner to go through Woodcote. Across the line for Alex Simpson. It's a 1 minute 20.6 and improves to P10 there, Jake.
P10, is that exactly what he wanted in this event? I don't think it is. Great improvement from Martin van Loosenhoort. He bumps him down, position number 9. Niemann to start another lap, but time is running out. Same can be said for David Williams in the 5 VRS Coanda SimSport machine. He's down in what is position number 14, and he's had a busy week because he's had to deal with World's Fastest Gamer 24 Hour, as well as now coming into here to go for Rotor Pro.
Yep, so practice could definitely be limited, and that's what David Williams has to focus on in qualifying. Is he knows this track a lot, but you don't want to be making too many mistakes. You've only got 3 maximum laps in this session. In the whole 15 minutes of qualifying, he's going to begin a lap here, and this will be his last trip around Silverstone as he heads towards Copse here, Connery.
And Niemanen's not going to qualify, I don't think. Connery, I don't know how much you saw of that, but Niemanen with another spin, he's not going to have enough time to get around and set another lap.
Nope, he won't. And yeah, it was just a self-spin, just spun it on the brakes coming down into the chicane and spun that car right around onto the grass, pointing in the wrong direction. Not going to get any lap in. He won't have enough laps left in the session to get himself another chance at things. David Williams still out there on track, though. This is his final timed lap. Let's see what he can do with this one, as he only has just a half a lap to go.
Yeah, and he made it... He wasn't even close to the apex there at Vale, but now towards the Abbey chicane. That's just so unfortunate for Jesse Niemanen. I mean, very fast qualifier as Williams loses it through Abbey chicane. That lap's done. Oh, he's into the wall there, David Williams. He will start no greater than the 7th row in this race. He's just ahead of Michael Partington. He's in 15th, but Jesse Niemanen, 7 poles in the World Championship, more than his race wins, but nothing today here, as David Williams was our last driver out on track. That is qualifying done, Jake. But look at this. Josh Rogers, the young man. We shouldn't be surprised, but the margin on pole, 2.5 tenths over our last round 1 winner, excuse me.
Yes, and they say that there'll be trouble when the kids come out, and the kids have come out to play in brute force right now. Joshua Rogers, it's not just the fact that he's done a 120.011. It's the fact that he's actually done it twice, Johnny, which is the more impressive fact. His first lap and his second lap split by just 10 thousandths of a second.
Yeah, very consistent, and that's what you need. Yes, Niemanen's still lapping around, but he's not going to make it. The session's over, so we'll have a look at the results for round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series. Josh Rogers with his first pole position of the season by 2.5 tenths over round 1 winner of Sebastian Job. Freddie Rasmussen, our last round winner at Montreal. He will only qualify on the 2nd row alongside Riley Preston. 2 Australians in the top 4. I'm definitely happy with that, as Boris Bolstra and Yuho Abe head the 3rd row of the grid. The rest of the top 10, brilliant performance from Aurelien Talamon. He's in 7th, followed by Ricardo Orozco, Martin van Loosenhoed, and Jorge Montañez. Alex Simpson and Tommy Osgaard, very famous bunch there on the 6th row, followed by Zoran Jonic, and we saw what happened to David Williams at the end of the session. He will start no greater than 14th at the moment. Michael Partington had a very disappointing round in Montreal. He's going to be in for a very difficult start to Silverstone. He's going to start no greater than 15th alongside Moritz Lochner in the 16th position, with Picaro and Brewer behind. The rest of the grid, Sadler, Domingo, Calestani, Bobby Zelensky, our oval specialist, veteran of the World Championship, Diogo Oliveira, followed by Enric Andre, Nicholas Rasmussen, Carlo Labatti, and the even more veteran, Jesse Niemanen, who did not set a lap time and did not really prove his experience any worth there for that qualifying session. So those are our qualifying results for round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series. We're going to take a quick break. Join us for pre-race coverage as usual. We're going to talk as much as we can about some very interesting stuff from last round at Montreal, especially with the lead lap going down to the final round and the upcoming round at Silverstone and beyond. Stay tuned. Don't leave us.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Pre-race coverage for round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series from Silverstone. We just learnt out that front row of the grid, well, that one is the same. However, we've got to talk about the fact Fabrizio Gobbi from the second split. Sterling qualifying effort by him, 1 minute 20.309. He will get third place for the start of this race, Johnny.
Yeah, what a brilliant lap time there from Fabrizio. Someone who's not really familiar to the front, but he's more than earned that here at Silverstone. Nailed the lap. Well, let's have a look at his race pace too, but at the moment he's currently split between the core sim racing cars of Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen. Very impressed with that performance.
Well, I was actually about to talk about Freddie Rasmussen, and we've heard, Jake, that he struggles on race starts. Third place on the grid, the quote-unquote clean side of the track, the better lining towards turn number 1. I was thinking, you know what, you might be okay, but now he's on the outside of row number 2. We've got to put a big circle around Freddie Rasmussen, because I've got a feeling he might struggle at the start in what is a very fast 40 seconds to start the motor race.
It is, and I think Fredrik Rasmussen's issue is probably going to come down to the fact that he's now what you'd classify as in the pack a little bit in comparison to being on the front row. He has had better starts in comparison to his teammate Sebastian Job, but the issue for Rasmussen is going to be, yes, he may not have the best of starts in the world, but now he's going to have some of the quicker starters now trying to make 6s and 7s up through the field into turn number 1, into corners which are very, very fast and ferocious. And if you leave even half a door open, there may be big contact, and no one wants to see an instant end like Macau earlier on today.
Yeah, indeed so. Worth noting that 51 drivers actually set a qualifying time for this race. A number of them didn't set a qualifying time. We need to talk about one of those drivers a bit more. That is Yassine Eminem. And Connie, when I showed the weather, I talked about cold track conditions, but 23 km/h winds. This track, if you get a crosswind, it can be very difficult. I think that caught a lot of people out here today. It caught out Alex Simpson a little bit, caught out a couple of the Radicals drivers, but the biggest loser, Yassine Eminem.
Yep, the previous World Championship Series contender, not really impressing in qualifying, having not set a lap time, but this just makes for a very, very interesting race once we get into things, because we have to see how far he can climb up the field with his past experience. Maybe not past experience in this car in particular. He's obviously more used to the old Formula 1 car, the Williams FW31, but yeah, the wind could have definitely been a factor there, because it was basically almost a crosswind right to left coming into Copse. And is very, very strong crosswind at that, around about 23 km/h for most of the session. So with aero-sensitive cars like these, could be a possible issue that these drivers have to deal with. It just gives that car just a little bit of an unsettled feeling coming into some of these corners. But Jesse Niemann is definitely one to keep an eye on going into this race, considering how far back he's starting.
Yeah, just having a look at where the cut is going to be. Currently looking at around P number 31. So ML Stansko is not going to make the top split for this event. Of course, unlike the World Championship Grand Prix Series, where if you don't qualify, you're not in the show at all, there will be multiple splits that take part for the Pro Series of road racing. So back to you then, Johnny. Front row of the grid, Joshua Roberts, absolutely phenomenal qualifying, 120.011 twice.
Yeah, brilliant time. He's very quick. I've hardly ever seen that with someone pretty much matching the same pole time twice. So if you have to pick a pole lap to choose from, is it the second one or the first one? That's a very good thing to find out. But the other thing is, I'm not surprised with him being this close up. It's just about the race now, because those core cars are so fast in the race. We're just going to find out if they made mistakes during qualifying or whether they're genuinely slower than Josh Rogers.
Well, for Rogers, what he wants to do is make sure he leads at the end of lap number 1. Really throw the spanner into the works, I would say, in terms of core sim racing. But you got to, you'd say, keep an eye out on the likes of Gobbi. Keep an eye out on the start for Rasmussen. And you can't forget about Riley Preston either, really. And I'm having a look through. Martin van Loosenhoorn in P number 10 could be someone that you think about, okay, if we're going to have a hard charger today, it might be Van Loosenhoorn. We've seen it before.
Yeah, and you know what? Martin van Loosenhoorn, former Apex Racing UK driver too, so he's the one who bumped out Alex Simpson, the team boss of Apex Racing UK, out of the top 10. He's a very quick guy. He's drives different cars around iRacing. He's just natural. He's a natural talent, and so for him, coming back into the World Championship is a big task now, because he's currently in the 6th position in the championship. Can he sustain that? It's very close in the championship, going down from basically P5 to P8 at the moment. But at the moment, I think Martin van Loozenhout, he's a guy who needs a second shot at the World Championship, and these results are very important here in the early rounds, because these are results you can't make up for, Will, later on in the season when you start to make mistakes. And when you see rounds, last round, for example, like what happened to Michael Partington, who had a very strong round number 1. Montreal wasn't the best for him, but he's still 8th in the championship. He needs to score as many points as he can earlier on to ease that pressure off of himself when it comes to those latter stages, especially around like the last rounds at Nürburgring. Very tight racetrack. The first couple corners could be very, very tough.
Yeah, and actually thinking about Party, P number 16 in qualifying, Jake, so not a good qualifying by him when we put that into perspective. And, you know, he's one of those drivers who we think will probably end up with a top 10, but we just got to pay attention again, because I think he's one of those drivers, if he has a poor start to this race, he really could struggle.
He could, and it has been the one crux of Partington's game. I think that he has put himself in a couple of situations throughout this year where he has had to try and fight and claw his way through the field. I'm not sure how good Michael Partington is as an aggressive driver. I think he works very much better as a defensive style of driver if he gets a good qualifying going in, but he's in that sort of position where positions get gained. It's the sort of Tommy Ostergaard spot, who ironically qualifies in position number 12 and will be looking to gain places, but you get around the mid part of the top 20, you're always looking up. You're never looking back in these sorts of races, and I think that's the goal that a driver like Michael Partington will be surely looking at.
Let's show you the championship then, heading into this event. It's only 3 points at the top of the standings right now between Sebastian Job and Freddie Rasmussen. Job on 641, Rasmussen on 638. But then a bit more of a gap to Riley Preston. And then Joshua Rogers starting first today. He's currently 4th in the championship. Alex Simpson rounds out your top 5. But those top 5, I would say, actually, Connery, they are head and shoulders above everyone else right now. So I'm thinking that if you are a driver like a Van Loozenhout, like an Ostergaard, like a Partington, you are battling amongst yourselves for Ps 6 through 10 in the overall championship.
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. Those guys are far and above, as you say, above the pace of pretty much everyone else in the field. So there's not really any point in focusing on what they're doing in the race, what they're doing with their strategy, and comparing your lap times to them. You're comparing yourself to those around you rather than those very, very far ahead of you. And that's exactly what Van Loozenhout, Ostergaard, Partington have to be thinking about right now. They have to finish consistently inside the top 10 to give themselves that security to be thinking that they will be finishing inside the top 10 in points at the end of the season.
Okay, I'm going to go round the table then. One thing we need to keep in our mind for today at Silverstone. Johnny, you first.
Well, the first thing is a very high-speed, fast-flowing circuit. Those first few corners heading into Kops and then into Maggots-Beckett's, who can form up and who can make up as many positions here as possible, because that's very critical. And I think the overtaking spots, you got Kops, Stowe, Club, the Abbey Chicane, probably one as well that you can probably sneak an overtake in. DRS zones available across the Hangar Straight and the straight preceding the Abbey Chicane. It's very important to see who's got the straight line speed as well to make those overtakes, with top speeds heading up to 335 kilometers an hour.
So, Jake?
I'm going to be a little bit cheatsy here and say two things, but one really isn't towards the race. Michael Partington suffering with illness, as I've just found out in the last couple of moments, so that's probably why he's a little bit further down the order. But I think that for Silverstone, I think that there is more opportunity to overtake than most other circuits, so I think that there is going to be a lot of availability to make positions up if you're clever into corners like the Priory, Brooklands, Luffield section. I think that final end of the lap holds potential to make moves, and easily one into Stowe. If you can't do it at Stowe, on the brakes into the Vale, this circuit presents multiple opportunity.
And Connery.
Yeah, I'm going to say something along the same similar lines to what Johnny said. Turn 1, absolutely crucial at this track. It's such a short run towards Cops, and it's basically only one line through Cops if you're lucky. So side by side coming through there on the first lap is definitely can be a recipe for disaster. And then, of course, you got Maggotts and Beckett straight afterwards, which again is most likely a one-line corner to go fast all the way through it. So could potentially be a messy start here.
Yeah, we had a messy one last week at Canada. Let's hope we get all the drivers through lap number 1 cleanly. That is it for our pre-race coverage. We're going to step aside for a few moments here on Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. The race is next.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them for a breast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
Welcome to Silverstone and to the third round of the iRacing Road Pro Series here on Racebot TV and on iRacing Live. It's cleared up just a little bit. Track temperature is now 24 degrees Celsius. Gonna hand it over to your commentary team, leading Jonathan Simon, Jake Sperry, and Connery Maddock. Over to you, Johnny.
So 5.1 kilometers, 3.2 miles, depending on your units of choice, around the Silverstone Bridge layout in Northamptonshire in the UK. 17 turns to challenge the drivers today, with 7 of those to the left, the other 10 to the right. 60 laps of racing action. Pit lane lost time around about 20 to 25 seconds, with minimal elevation change and top speeds of up to 335 kilometers an hour. 2 DRS zones available for the drivers, one on the Hanger straight heading to Stowe, the other on the back straight heading towards the Abbey chicane that currently Josh Rogers is rounding himself through. And as we said, Jake, in qualifying, track temperature is very cool, but today we come to the race, 41-degree track temp. Will that affect the tires at all come race time?
It's a massive change from qualifying to the race, and it will take a lot of adaptability heading into a very, very difficult section of this event. I think it's going to still be a one-stop as it traditionally is, but I think there's a lot of drivers here using this as just survive more rather than score major points.
And Connery, we were very excited by Fabrizio Jobbi, who could have potentially been on the second row of the grid, splitting the core sim racing teammates of Job and Rasmussen, but he will not be in this race, and so that means Rasmussen now will start behind pole sitter Josh Rogers.
Yeah, yes, he will. That's just by virtue of how the splitting by iRacing works. Unfortunately, that particular driver will just be starting in the, well, racing in the second split. But of course, they will be pole position in that second split, so it's not all bad. So, heading to the race now, and we wait for the drivers to take to the grid. Josh Rogers on pole, Sebastian Job second, Rasmussen and Preston behind on that second row. And Jake, final thoughts before the start here, because this is very tense here for Josh Rogers at the start. He's got 2 mad scrambling race winners behind.
Trial by fire indeed for Josh Rogers. It all comes down to how good he can be heading towards turn number 1. He's got the inside line, which is going to be very helpful in defending, but Maggots and Beckett, they're a completely different set of challenges.
Here we go now, as the drivers wait for the lights to illuminate. Preston in 4th. Will look to get a good start here. His Australian compatriot of Rogers looks at the lights here as they illuminate, with 60 laps of racing action coming up. And we go green at Silverstone. Oh, it looked like Preston got away well, and there's a tap there. Sebastian Jobs turned around, so is Riley Preston. Carnage on the start-finish straight here at the start, but it's Josh Rogers who gets away in pole position. Oh, goodness, Jake, have a look behind. It looked like Preston and Job collided.
It did, and Preston jumped the start a little bit heading through, and he just got way too greedy. There was a big mistake from Sebastian Job. He's been struggling with his starts a lot, and everybody getting caught up in the opening lap incident. I count that as 10 cars plus, all really, really struggling, and now Rogers breaks away, Rasmussen and Spolstra in 3rd.
And Alex Simpson up into the 4th position, but he's under attack from Sebastian Job, who remains in this race here. The two are alongside each other, heading into the Abbey chicane. The Vale chicane. Here's Simpson on the inside, but he can't maintain P4 as Sebastian Job files his way through there. So damage limitation for Sebastian Job here, Connery. But what a magnificent start from Alex Simpson.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic start. Up 6 positions already, and we're not even, we're getting towards the 3/4 of a lap done here, as the top 3 cars have just broken away from the rest. You got Joshua K. Rogers, Frederick Rasmussen, Boris Spolzer in that leading pack. You also get Sebastian Job trying to catch back up to them, but it's an absolute train for the rest of these positions now heading through left field.
So we'll have a look at who's actually retired from this event, but there's so many cars, we've lost count, but Josh Rogers leads at the end of the first lap, just ahead of Freddie Rasmussen by 1 second. Boris Spolstra in 3rd from 5th on the grid, followed by Sebastian Job and Alex Simpson. Ricardo Orozco from 8th on the grid jumps up to 6th. Zoran Jonic, who started 13th, he's into the 7th position with Yuho Abe behind in 8th. And then the rest of the top 10, Michael Partington and David Williams. Tommy Osgaard in 11th, Massimiliano Ficcardo in 12th, but what a start there from Josh Thompson here, Jake, from 29th, avoided all the carnage. He's in 14th.
And doing a very good job from 14th position as well. And now looking to take position 13 as he sends one down to the inside on the driver of Jorge Montañez. Positive sim racing. Not much you're going to argue about that. He will lose that position because of it. Bit of damage on the front wing for Josh Thompson as Montañez just behind, now having to defend from the driver of Moritz Lohner in the Hoitzenveld Core Motorsports machine. Down the inside then at the Vale and then into this next corner of Club. He does very well. He takes the position and now look how far Montañez goes back. Sadler with a big dive.
Oh, good stuff from Alex Sadler. Caught him unaware, and he's up into the 15th position. Jorge Montañez had a look on the inside, but they keep it together. No contact between the two. And Montañez now from 10th on the grid finds his way in P16. He's lost 3 positions this lap, Connery.
Yeah, not a good position, and that's good, not a good position for him to be in, and he's lost 6 positions since the start of this race. There's Boris Spolstra in. Does he have damage to that car? This is definitely not a scheduled stop. That car is tracking a little bit weirdly. He was running in position number 3 after the carnage at the start, but that damage a little bit too much to bear for Spolstra. He's in.
Oh, goodness. Boris Spolstra from 5th on the grid had an amazing start.
Hang on. I think that may be a jump start.
Yeah, possibly. It looked like a quick penalty, wasn't it? So we don't know what happened to Boris Spolstra, but he's out in the way in the T car, and he's now currently in the 25th position. He's right behind Jesse Nieminen, who made this race despite not setting a qualifying time. And, oh, goodness me there, Jake, but for Boris Spolstra, he's got a whole lot of work to do now.
There's a lot of work to do for a lot of drivers. You talk about the drivers who are out in that opening lap. Arnaud, Oliveira, Van Loosenord, Talmon, Tierney, Nicholas Rasmussen, and Eric Andre. So 3 of the real championship machines. You talk about 2 of the Evolution Racing Team machines. There is a big effort being done, and still Thompson versus Tommy Osgaard now, who's struggling in this event as Osgaard loses 1. Osgaard may be losing 2 round the outside of Priory. Tries Moritz Lohner round the outside at Brooklands now. He will have to try and gets the inside line for Luffield, but you can hold it around the outside at Luffield. This is brilliant. Half a lap, side by side.
Yeah, look at Lohner now. What can he do here on the main straight? As they'll begin another lap. Lohner straight through. Tommy Osgaard will have to file into P13. Whoa! Alex Sadler straight past as well. Plenty of Alex Sadler, Connery. What a pass from him. And Alex Sadler, he actually started this race from P19. He's currently in to the 13th position.
Yep, fantastic start for the Radicals Online driver, and that was just such an opportunistic move down the inside of Osgaard at the Copse corner there as Sadler. Now he has the overspeed on Moritz Lohner. Defensive inside line for Lohner, almost pushes Sadler onto the grass there, but Sadler manages to wrestle the inside line away from him from Stowe, and he's going to track out a little bit too much, a little bit of a wheel-wheel contact there between the 2 drivers, but they will all survive.
And Moritz just gave a slight bit of space for Sadler there around the outside, so Alex Sadler, he's got a lot of straight line speed, and we're going to keep one eye on him throughout this event because next on his list is Josh Thompson, the man who made a very magnificent start. Massimiliano Ficata up ahead. He's behind David Williams heading under the bridge and through the next few corners. Ficata, who also started outside the top 10 in 17th, so our retirements for this event, if you're wondering: Richard Arnaud, Martin Van Loosenord, Aurelien Talmon, Adam Tierney, Nicholas Rasmussen, and Eric Andre, Diogo Oliveira, and of course Riley Preston, who had it was definitely a jump start there, Jake, as he tried a little too.
Yeah, he tried a little bit too much, maybe to try and get a good start. He knew that he jumped it. He just eased off, tried to get a good start, go to the middle. But Job having a shocking start as well, you argue has to be everyone to blame in that situation too. And well, 7 vehicles plus getting themselves involved and out of this event, you feel right now is not the ideal situation that you want. But you look at drivers who have profited from this right now, Connery. Of course, Josh Thompson is up in 4 laps, looking at the top 10 now, actually. In fact, Alex Sadler's gone through on him. But you look at drivers like maybe Alex Simpson, who plus 7'd off of this start as well. There's brilliant progress going through.
Yeah, brilliant progress, mostly because of the absolute mess before the first corner with that very, very messy start that we had. It's just mixed this grid up just entirely. Everyone is just out of position right now, which is why we're seeing so many changes for position, so many drivers that have gained and lost positions. You've got the likes of Josh Thompson gained 17 places. You've got Carlo Labate gaining 12, Victor Prieto 11, Esteban Barlow gaining 13. There's a lot of drivers that are out this race, and there's big opportunities for drivers further down the field to gain major points here.
And let's focus on this battle, Labate versus Domingo, the battle for P16 out on circuit. Good run then through Woodcote needed for Manu Domingo. He's not going to be close enough down into turn number 1, but he's got to keep himself within a good little gap as they head towards the next corners here, the Maggots and Beckett that you have as you make the run to the hangar straight. And you see from Manu Domingo right now, just trying to hold it, but there's a dirty air effect there, Connery, and that's going to mean that Domingo is going to struggle to stay on the rear of the ERT machine.
Yeah, the dirty air effect is going to be huge heading through high downforce sections like Maggots and Beckett, but Manu Domingo will get the DRS heading down the hangar straight, not anywhere close enough to make a move down in towards Stowe. He'll just have to work on closing that gap over the next couple of laps and just see if he can do something a little bit later on. But there's still a tight battle going on between Moritz Luchner and Josh Thompson here, and in fact Moritz Luchner manages to get his way by on previous couple of corners. So a fantastic battle between two Radicals Online drivers and the Huygens Core Motorsports driver here. Manu Domingo and Carlo Labate, though, they were heading side by side, coming up on just before bridge there. And I think Manu Domingo managed to get a move done.
I think he certainly did. Yep.
Oh, Domingo's off though, and he rejoins the racetrack. Manuel, who just picks up a bit of rubber there, a bit of dust. That window, Jake, opens on lap 23 of 60, so plenty of time to go before these drivers make that pit stop. We know track temps up to 41 degrees Celsius, but it is probably going to be a one race as Domingo heads through the first couple corners. But that lead for Josh Rogers, more importantly, if we look back on that, he's broken the DRS zone, and Freddie's done the same to his teammate Sebastian Job behind, who we don't know if he's got any rear end damage, but probably not at this stage. He looks very quick.
Yeah, Sebastian Job looking quick, keeping himself within the status quo, and in fact, you could argue was the fastest man, or one of the quickest men of the three, as there was two 124.5s and the 124.9 from Frederick Rasmussen. So you are starting to see here Rasmussen fall back into the clutches a little bit, maybe, of Sebastian Job, but I just want to go back to those opening instants that we saw. The crucial thing is there's one drop week between rounds 1 and 6, but the bigger crucial thing is this is the first lap instant that we've seen. And there's no second chance. Well, there is a second chance, but there's no third chances here in this series, Johnny.
No, there isn't. So we're going to get it right. And we said it in the pre-race show we had, in that you really have to collect as many points as you can in the early stages of this event. Doran Jonic, though, he's in 6. He had a very good round at Montreal. Repeats again here at Silverstone, possibly. He's behind Ricardo Orozco by 1.4 seconds. More importantly, Connery, though, we talk about DRS zones and overtaking spots. Sebastian Job here heading towards the hangar straight will have DRS on his teammate Freddie Rasmussen.
Yep, and Rasmussen won't have DRS off Josh K. Rogers, so that's a deficit that he'll have to be dealing with heading in towards Stowe. But again, Job still not close enough. But he is reeling that gap in bit by bit by bit, a couple of tenths here and there each lap, just drawing his teammate back in. We saw their particular battles last time out at Montreal, but the Job was courteous enough to let Rasmussen back through to take the race win after their little bit of contact. So these guys are very good friends, and I don't want to see that ruined.
Well, this is a bit of a repeat of Montreal, isn't it? The final lap last round and went down to the wire with contact between the two Court Sim Racing teammates in those orange, black and white McLaren MP430s as Job goes off the racetrack. He was following Rasmussen there. Rasmussen took a bit of grass. Job took a little bit more there, Jake. And we know what happened at Montreal in the early laps for Seb. He was, I mean, he made a heap of mistakes and he just didn't look settled. It looks the same here at Silverstone so far.
Well, he'd be rattled after the opening few laps, and well, he's 1/6 of the way through at the end of the next lap, so he'll have that ability to close in, but What he knows is that he's not actually doing a bad job overall, because he's still closing down to the leader, closing down to Rasmussen. The car in front of him now has DRS available for him to use, so he'll in essence get a double toe down this straight. Maybe not enough to close up to Rasmussen. No, we can't guarantee that, but what he will do is get there in the next few moments time, the next few laps. I'm watching this battle though, Zelensky versus Prato for P18, P19, and Zelensky under a lot of pressure, but should have DRS.
Yep, so Bobby Zelensky here on the hangar straight. He's got DRS to pass Carlo Labate, but look at Victor Prato creeping in. Here he is up the inside, Victor Prato, and straight past Bobby Zelensky there for P18. Can Zelensky fight back though? Can't do it. Heading into Vale. So Zelensky will lose a spot there, but look at the lead battle between Rogers, Rasmussen and Job. This is getting closer and closer. Wheel spin on the first lap for Job. This time he's made up for it, and he's now within 1 second of the lead here. Josh Rogers is under pressure, Connery.
Yes, he is. That gap has been reeled back in, but I'm just looking back to the battle for P number 8 right now. David Williams, the Coanda driver, has just gotten past the ERT driver of Michael Partington, coming towards the end of the lap here, so put one position up for David Williams, improving from P number 14 on the grid.
Yeah, and there's so much dirty air heading into Cops here as Ficata is very close behind. Here's Massimiliano Ficata heading into Maggots and Beckett's. Michael Partington is under a heap of pressure here. He just cannot steer that car in at all. DRS zone available once again. This is where we saw Vic Prato make a move earlier on Bobby Zelensky. Can Ficata do the same? Not enough straight line speed, only up to 320 kilometers an hour for Massimiliano Ficata. Though he's got a great exit here heading out of Stowe. Not enough though, Jake, to get himself into P9 there. So Partington robust on the defense.
Yes, and Michael Partington using his skills well, but of course suffering from illness as things stand. So he's really struggling. He hasn't put in the amount of practice that he'd want to. Happy for the fact that he's +6, but he knows that he will struggle later on in this event with all the pressure that will be applied against him, as Massimiliano Ficata has proven that he can follow in the coattails. You can see that with the different contrasting lines through Priory there, with Ficata taking a much more shallower, tighter line through that corner and just seeing himself a little bit more astute and more nose pointed heading through these corners.
And Juho Abe there in P7. He's also got Zoran Jonic within his clutches. They head towards turn number 1 for the 11th time this race, with 49 laps remaining. Juho Abe, who's been in the World Championship before, looking to get in there again for another time. He seems to be creeping in on Jonic corner by corner. The lead though, Rasmussen very close to Josh Rogers, heading at the end of the hangar straight, not close enough to make a move, and he remains in P2 for the time being. So Freddie Rasmussen putting a lot of pressure on Josh Rogers at this stage of the race. Now we know that pit window, Connery, we mentioned it, lap 23 onwards, we're searching for it. Does Freddie, if he can't get past Josh Rogers, because Silverstone's not the easiest place to make a move, does he consider possibly the undercut? He'll have to, right?
Yeah, well, if he can't find any way past otherwise, then he's going to have to take that option. But that might compromise him later on in the race, especially with the race with his teammate as well. Sebastian Job, typically better on the tires, has a lot more experience in this car with the tire management in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. So he is going to be, well, if Sebastian Job wants to go for the undercut and take both of them, then that could also be a thing that he needs to do as well. But, you know, it's going to have to be a decision by both of these core sim racing drivers. They're probably going to have to work together to try and negotiate Joshua K. Rogers right now.
Yep. Much of a braking circuit. There aren't that many braking spots, so it really takes... Yeah, it's a different element to other racetracks as Josh Rogers goes defensive. It's other racetracks, you'll see the late breakers try to make a move, but at this racetrack, it's all really about your straight line speed.
Yeah, it is about the straight line speed. It's about how you can manage it when you get into those sorts of areas. You're hoping that you get a chance out of Beckett's, out of Chapel, and really get that run heading in towards the right-hander. So, you know, you put yourself on that run to Stowe and you always look for an opportunity to make things happen Sometimes it doesn't work the way, though, that you think, though. But look at this one, though, Johnny. Juho Arbe, Zoran Jonjic right now. Battle P6, P7. Arbe waiting right now for that opportunity in the 16 machine. And right now, Juho Arbe probably thinking, you know, there's Ricardo Orozco just down the road as well. There's a top 5 at stake.
Yeah, possibly. So they're all fighting for valuable points here. So Juho Arbe there at final corner. Luffield, he's very close here, Connery, to Zoran Jonjic.
Yep, next lap could be a possibility as they head to complete lap 12. On to lap number 13 for these guys. Arbe definitely in a very good position to try and get one over the Orion Racing Team driver right now. The battle at the front is staying a little bit stagnant right now. Still not close enough for Rasmussen or Job to make passes. But Arbe coming through the Magnussen-Beckett section right now. Important to get a good run out of Chapel to maximize the effect of the DRS coming down the Hanger Straight. Let's see what he does here. He gets the DRS, but not going to be close enough, Jake.
No, not going to be close enough just yet. So Juho Arbe then will have to sit and play the waiting game yet again. Leading 3, line astern yet again, but further down. The battle's starting to open out a bit. I believe Carlo Labate has run into issues. He's dropped back now behind the charging Boris Spolstra. And Spolstra, who pitted on lap 3, what we believe to be a drive-through penalty, or a stop-and-hold penalty, as it were, now back inside the top 20, making positions. Thanks to the incidents today, Spolstra is gaining more money for his buck.
Yeah, he's kind of lucky that that mess happened on the start with him making that, accused jump start and having to come down the pits to save that penalty. Massive recovery drive for him on the cards. Of course, started P number 5 down in P number 20 right now, looking to gain one more position over Dan Brewer. And just having a look at the lap time, it's a huge advantage to Boris Spolstra. It's around about a second that last time by he had over Dan Brewer. And, you know, he's even faster than a couple of the drivers ahead. So he is absolutely on a charge right now. But there's also another still close battle between Michael Partington and Massimiliano Ficarra as well. We know that Michael Partington's a little bit under the weather. That may be affecting his performance, but let's see if it affects his defense to Ficarra.
But behind Ficarra, of course, is Moritz Lohner, who will be hoping to try and get himself up inside the top 10 for the first time here today. The Hoitzenfeld Core Motorsports machine. And that's the thing with Hoitzenfeld. They don't necessarily have the same structures that everyone else has for Moritz Lohner to develop, because that is very much a GT3-based team. So Moritz Lohner very much on his own, almost like a privateer or an independent driver would be, Connery.
Yeah, but even though he is pretty much for all intents and purposes a privateer because of his team's heritage usually in the GT cars, he's still doing very, very well. Just trying to get himself inside the top 10 here at Silverstone, which is the important thing to get, because top 10 in points at the end of the season means you do get a Pro World Championship license at the end of things. And, well, that would mean a Hoitzenfeld Core Motorsports car in both the Blancpain GT Series and in the World Championship Grand Prix Series as well. They'll definitely be happy with that.
Definitely will. A driver who won't be happy, though, is the 33 of Carl Winkler. Why? Because he won 2 second split races in the opening 2 rounds of the season. And because of that, Connery, he's 13th in the championship. He needs to get into that top 10 and score big points. He's not proving himself today. P23, he'll be dropping massive points compared to his rivals.
Yes, he absolutely will, and he might have been one of those drivers that did get caught up in that first lap instant. You can see the damage to that front wing. The driver's right-hand side of that front wing is all crinkled up. He must be using a ton of speed through the high downforce sections as a result of that, so we can expect his pace to improve in the second stint once he gets that scheduled stop done. He doesn't feel that it's enough damage to come in right now and get it repaired, but he will get that front wing changed in the scheduled stop.
He will, and there will be opportunity for that to happen. Still, the train leaves Lohner, Ficarra, Partington for 9, 10 and 11 as Lohner closes up to the rear as he looks for an opportunity maybe towards Abbey chicane, which is not the most traditional overtaking opportunity, but by the looks of things, a second DRS zone as they get themselves on the brakes in. Big long lunge from the driver of Massimiliano Ficarra. Not much you can do in terms of a move, but again, leading 3 at the front right now, Rogers, Rasmussen and Job. And if you're Sebastian Job, are you content with just sitting there and waiting for an opportunity to come along? Or are you happy knowing that Frederick Rasmussen is just holding this gap at about 0.4 of a second? Rasmussen is closer than he has ever been to Joshua Rogers.
Yeah, I think we'll see the vast majority of the major moves happen coming into the final stint here. I think this is just a waiting game for these guys at the front right now, just seeing where each other's strengths and weaknesses lie. As, again, Rasmussen not getting close enough, Rob not going to be close enough. So these guys are just basically in one big DRS train right now, just at the front of this field, waiting for those stops to come.
And Partington now just behind that in the battle for P9, 10, 11, under immense pressure then, as Ficarra will have the DRS and the ERS overspeed on the run down to Stowe, down the hanger straight, not close enough to make a move into the right-hander on lap 16 of the event. So the pit stop window will come into view in just a few laps' time. And this is where drivers start positioning themselves, thinking, when is it the right time to start making a move, Connery? Is it the right time to come down and make some stops? When do I decide to make things happen?
Yeah, and that's especially the case if you have a little bit of front wing damage from that first lap incident, like Carl Winkler and a couple of other drivers down through the field here. The likes of Manu Domingo also has front wing damage. Jorge Montanez has front wing damage. I think Tommy Oscar has front wing damage. Josh Thompson front wing damage as well. So all these guys are running at a reduced pace right now. None of them feel that it's bad enough to come in for an unscheduled stop. So we'll see these guys making a charge in the second stint because they don't have a damaged car anymore.
And they'll be expected to lose maybe 5 seconds in the stop in comparison to their rivals, and that's going to be a big worry when you go further on through this event and you look at drivers dropping positions, and they have a lot more work to do. These front three have to be careful though. They're starting to allow Alex Simpson in the Apex Racing UK machine to close that gap down. The gap is 3 seconds between Simpson and Job. It's only got to be within 1 second, Connery, for Alex Simpson to have DRS, and he will hope that Josh Rogers continues to run at this 125.3 pace. Little wiggle from Rasmussen, he's under pressure.
Yeah, you have to feel that maybe the tires are starting to go away from Rasmussen. We saw this at Interlagos. He's not really one of the best at managing the tires in these McLaren MP430s. Sebastian Job much better at that, and we see wiggles from Rasmussen quite a lot of the time at the end of stints here. So I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to pay in early if those tires go too far away from him. Try and get the undercut over Josh Rogers and try and get P1 after the stops are done, but that just delays the tire wear problem. That means you're just going to have even more troubles at the end of this race, as they both missed pit road this time by, so not an extreme early stop for these guys. Alex Simpson did gain about 0.2 of a second that last time by. We'll see what the gain is this time by. It's going to be a 1 minute 25.3 for Alex Simpson, and that is going to be around about 0.5 of a second faster than Sebastian Job. So Alex Simpson, bit by bit, is reeling these leaders in, but not enough to really be troubling them.
Not at the moment. Back a little further down, P17, 18, 19. This is Victor Prato versus Dan Brewer versus Boris Spolstra, two teammates in the Evolution Racing team. And you also have the driver, Victor Prato, in the Champs iRacing machine, looking to try and re-qualify into the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, Connery, losing his top 30 status, which will make his life even more difficult for next year because it's only a top 20 status heading on forward.
Yeah, it is, and there's talk of introducing a new participation rule as well, meaning that you have to run a certain amount of races in that World Championship Grand Prix Series to even secure your license for the next season, no matter where you place in the standings. You have to finish top 20 and do a certain amount of races as well. So that is another thing that these drivers have to be concerned about, is Istvan Balo has to run over Bobby Zelensky, number 14 car, has to defend coming into Stowe. And he does get that position defended, and I'm always amazed at Bobby Zelensky because he's kind of like another PJ Sturgios. He's good at the oval racing. He's in that NASCAR Peak Entry Series, and he's trying to get himself into the World Championship Series here as well. It's just such a multi-talented driver.
Certainly can be a very multi-talented driver. We'll see whether that happens. But Johnny, welcome back. Lead 3 still split by a second.
Yeah, a few technical gremlins for me. Hopefully none for these drivers out there, but good timing for Bobby Zelensky to talk about him, because I think I motivated him, Connery, about a couple months ago. I was talking to him with Cisco Scaramuzzo, who's part of LSR TV, and I said, "Who's Bobby Zelensky?" I had no idea who he was. I never watched the Peak Antifreeze Series, and he's like, "Maybe I need to try the roadside a little bit more." And here he is in the Pro Series. He's gone that far. Maybe I put that chip on his shoulder.
Yep, and well, there are quite a few transferable skills between the two disciplines of racing, and both PJ and Bobby definitely show that you can be quick in both disciplines, and it's just absolutely fantastic to see those guys over here on the road side of things as well. But looking at the battle for P number 10, this is just Massimiliano Ficarra and Mats Luchner here getting very, very close, heading their way in towards Abbey now. Still not close enough for Luchner to get his way past, but look how deep he goes in the brakes, and every single braking zone he's bringing that front wing right to the gearbox of Ficarra, but he's just not able to find any gap to stick his nose in.
Yeah, and these points are critical because Moritz Lochner is 9th in the championship, and he needs every point he can extract to make it into the top 10 and get a 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series license. Here he is through Luffield. He goes for the V line through that corner. Ficarra went for a tighter line, but the better exit. There is Ficarra heading into turn number 1. He's right behind Michael Partington too, Jake, who he's dropped behind a little bit from David Williams in front. He's about 2 seconds behind. Williams, though, at the same time, he's catching Juho Abe and Zoran Jonic. Zoran is not making any progress at all in P6.
No, he isn't, and he's not being able to close up. But you look at this now for Ficarra, right behind Partington, who's defensive in towards Stowe corner, round the outside. He'll have to go, they touch, and both of them are going to go spearing off to the left-hand side onto the AstroTurf. And, well, my goodness me, Michael Partington, he tried to defend it. He just didn't get that vehicle turned back down onto the apex, and as such, now behind Tommy Ostergaard, making positions. And, again, around goes Ficarra.
Oh, Ficarra around again, and I don't even know where he is right now. He's 100 miles off the racetrack. He's going to rejoin here at Club, and hopefully not in anybody's way. Boris Bolstra a couple of seconds behind there, but Ficarra found his way onto the grass. He's lost a lot of positions, and he's in the championship charge as well. He currently holds that last license in P10 if the championship stopped at the moment.
Oh, he's spun again.
Oh, man. And Connery, you can see what happens there. One spin in the McLaren. You really have to cool those tires down. Otherwise, it's going to get exponentially worse.
It could either be that or he has some sort of suspension damage to that car. We'll just have to see as he still tries to spin that car back around. Did he actually make contact with the barriers then? Oh no, he was just waiting for the rest of the traffic to come through. So good job holding the brakes there for Ficarra just to let the traffic go through instead of pulling out in front of them. There's another wiggle coming through Priory. So that car isn't looking too healthy.
And Jake, we talked about our pit window at lap 23. Manuel Domingo pits at the end of lap 21. And he will, end of lap 20, I should say, excuse me, and he will service his PSR car. He'll be out and away soon. Very long pit stop, though, here, Jake, for Manuel Domingo. Possibly damage from the early laps.
Yes, and he will look to get out and away, and he was running a little bit on his own behind the likes of maybe a Dan Brewer or so. So we'll see where he comes out in comparison to all of those drivers, but you can't turn away from the top 3. Is running very wide, actually, in through Priory is Joshua Rogers right now. Rasmussen and Job getting themselves into play, and with the pit stop window now starting to look open, who dives in early? Who decides they want to make this stop? Or do they force Josh Rogers to stay out as long as possible on really battered and old tyres?
Yeah, well, let's have a look at that top 3 battle, because Job now is very close to Rasmussen, who's also very close to Josh Rogers. Rogers has led every single lap here from pole position. He's on his way for the Grand Slam. 3 drivers off, though, Connery, down the back of the pack.
No, there's the number 3 driver that was off. Moritz Lochner coming down in towards, I believe that's Priory there. Oh, contact.
Connery, sorry, the lead battle here. Here's Josh Rogers being passed by Freddie Rasmussen. The two are alongside each other heading into Stowe, and Rasmussen climbs his way into the lead heading into the pit stop phase. Job here also has a shot into P2. Will it be a double whammy for Rogers? It is. The 2 core sim racing cars up into the top 2. What a move there from both of them. And Connery, wow. Rogers, he was coming up to the pit stop phase. He had the advantage. It's all gone.
Yeah, and that is exactly what Core Sim Racing needed to get both of their drivers by in a relatively quick fashion. Freddie Rasmussen around the outside at Stowe. That was an absolutely fantastic move. The car just gripped up for him. And while Josh Rogers was bleeding from that move, there was Sebastian Job to pounce on him while he was vulnerable, getting both Core Sim Racing cars past just before the pit stop phase. And now what do they do when they come up towards pit entry right now? Both the Core Sim Racing cars are coming up to that stage now. Do any of them come in? Sebastian Job comes in. Rogers stays out. Rasmussen stays out.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the two core cars continued, I would pit if I was Josh Rogers, but Seb has closed the door on that, and Rasmussen leads for the first time this race. So Sebastian Job, where's he going to feed out? That's the question, Jake. He's going to be in a lot of traffic as he exits the pits.
It depends on where he is. He may be in the Thompson-Oscar battle. He may be the bridge between the gaps. He may be with the Moritz Lochner machine, which spun a little bit earlier on. It depends on when he goes, and it's a long stay in that box, and he finally gets himself going. Front wing damage maybe we could have seen, but he gets himself out, he gets himself going, and crucially enough, it's clean air between the lap Jesse Nieminen and Jorge Montañez just in front. So a lot of work to do, currently in position 14 on circuit.
Yeah, I think there actually is rear-end damage to Sebastian Job's car, and that must have been from Riley Preston at the start of the race. That rear light is offset a little bit to the left. So Sebastian Job has lost a lot of time. He's behind Montañez, as Jake was speaking about. He's currently in P14. And it's just a matter of what the top two do now, Connery, as they head towards the final few corners through Brooklands.
Yeah, Job has to be careful with that rear diffuser damage, as that is where a large amount of the downforce is generated for relatively little drag, as Fredrik Rasmussen heads his way in. Joshua Rogers still staying out another lap. He wants the fresher tires at the end of this race.
Yep, so Rogers now will lead this lap again. Alex Simpson finds himself in P2. Nobody joins Rasmussen into the pit lane. They all continue, so where's Freddie Rasmussen going to feed out? Who's our current effective race leader in the box for Freddie Rasmussen. Quick stop for him, much quicker than teammate Sebastian Job. Josh Thompson's coming through turn number 1 here, Jake, and I think he might just slot behind Freddie Rasmussen. This is going to be close.
It is, and well, Josh Thompson will have a lot less fresher tyres, so look at just how Fredrik Rasmussen will be able to just open the gap through Maggots and Beckett's. And well, the gap in terms of relative vehicles is 3 machines. Sebastian Job was held up a bit by Montañez, and now a little bit held up by Partington, but I don't expect Partington to fight this one, even though it's for position.
Yeah, and Partington as well could possibly have some damage, so who knows what's going to happen when he enters his box. He's heading through Stowe. He's not quick at all. There's just no grip on that ART car at all. And he runs deep as well. Oh, Mike Partington, he's struggling. And so Sebastian Job, clear air in front. He's got 2.8 seconds to Tommy Oscar, but there's a fight going on ahead. Just has to make sure that he doesn't trip over anybody here. It's very critical. He's currently 5 seconds behind Freddie Rasmussen, our effective leader here, Connery. So he's got a lot of time to make up.
But meanwhile, the number 5, Joshua Rogers, your current race leader, stays out yet another lap. So this is the strategy call that Rogers is banking on right now. He would have known that Sebastian Job would have had a long stop, so he has some time to work with in the battle to him. But in terms of the battle to Rasmussen, then that one's going to be a little bit closer, as the battle between Jonjic and Abe still very, very close, in their way through the Maggots and Beckett section right now. Abe will have the DRS. That's a much better run than we've seen in previous laps for Abe, as he will have the run in towards Stowe Corner. Will he take the inside line? No, he will just back out of that one. The door was open for him. I would have gone for that.
Yeah, he backed out. That's interesting. So he's in P5 at the moment, hasn't made his pit stop. And he remains behind Zoran Jonjic heading into Vale. And so Tommy Oscar is also into the pit lane for PSR. He's right behind Mike Partington, who's also into the pits. It was actually a quick stop here, Jake, for Mike Partington, so no damage to fix. And that's an ideal situation for him. He was probably just struggling from tyre wear.
Yeah, that's been the issue that Evolution Racing Team have struggled with all season long, and they will have to try and find a way to go through. But look at Ducky now have a chance to close that gap down. 3 tenths, 2 tenths, 1 tenth. Big power move to the inside as he gets into turn number 1. Almost a second bit of contact for Partington.
Oh.
And that corner, and Oscar's around.
Yeah, Tommy Oscar's around. He's into the grass on the inside of Stowe Corner. And that's going to take a lot of time to make up. He's behind Manuel Domingo, his Positive Sim Racing teammate. But Alex Simpson's into the pits in the meantime from P2. He's out in the way. He's already behind Freddie Rasmussen, who's gone past the main straight. So has Sebastian Job. And so a lot of drivers going very late on this first stint. Normally what you see here, Jake, is drivers will go early just because the car's heavier, the tires are worn out more. But Josh Rogers, I keep thinking he's going to come in. He's pushing to the limit, and he's losing so much pace at the moment. 25.7 last lap for Josh Rogers. Freddie Rasmussen at 24.4. He's lost 1.3 seconds in one lap alone.
And I think the thing that Josh Rogers is banking on here is losing this time now to gain it on the fresh tyres later, hoping that Frederick Rasmussen's tyres will start to go off. And if he's not careful, he'll fall into the clutches of the likes of Simpson and the likes of Job as well. So that's what Josh Rogers is probably banking on at this stage, having better tyres, having a better second half to the stint, and being able to just use it all to his advantage. He looks to dive down to lane this time by, and that's going to mean Josh Rogers bites the proverbial bullet.
Yeah, those tires were almost off the cliff. There was no grip at all. Rogers into the pit lane. He's not joined by Ricardo Orozco, who will lead a lap of this race. So, actually, no, Josh Rogers actually crossed the line before he did. So, Ricardo will have to wait till next lap around. Jonic enters the pit lane alongside Yuho Abe. David Williams close behind as well. David Williams almost giving a love tap to Abe in front. They're all searching for their box here. Connery, this is so difficult because you can't see your pit box. It's so easy to run deep, but here they all are.
Yep, but I mean, yes. Sebastian Job ahead of Rogers right now. That is a big factor, even though Sebastian Job had to have a long stop to get damage repaired because Joshua Rogers stayed out so long on those old tires. That means he's just lost enough time to put him back behind Sebastian Job. That's not what he would have wanted. He has to get past two core sim racing cars now to get himself back into that race lead. You also got the small issue of Alex Simpson behind, potentially could make himself a card to be played at the end of this race, as we're still waiting for a couple of drivers to head their way down onto the lane. We're still waiting for Ricardo Orozco. We're still waiting for Alex Sadler, Victor Preto, and Carlo Labate to head their way for the service.
Yeah, and Josh Rogers has to watch out here because Alex Simpson only pitted a lap earlier than him. So depending on how Alex's pace is, and we know how quick the World Championship veteran can be at times. He's had his home race too, so who knows? He could catch Josh here in the next few laps. But those three out of the pits, Jonic, Abe, Williams, they all remain in the same order. They're all very feisty, though, heading for their box as they head through Brooklands at the moment. So the effective top 10, only Alex Sadler hasn't made a pit stop. Ricardo Orozco in the pits now, finally. He did lead a lap too, Jake, and Ricardo should file his way into P5. He is. He will remain in the top 5.
He will, and that's a good stop there from Ricardo Orozco, the last man to come, or one of the last men to come down and make the proverbial stop. So we'll be happy. Alex Sadler as well, out and away, one of the new drivers at Radicals Online. He's now behind David Williams, and he's put himself perfectly in position here in 9th overall, or yes, 9th place overall right now. Moritz Lochner, the driver just behind him. So drivers making gains there through the stop window, and well, you can't blame them. They're making very good decisions right now here at this stage. But the questionable one is Josh Rogers. But we'll see over the next 32 laps or so how he can pull that gap back down in. The gap is 6 seconds to Frederick Rasmussen.
Yeah, we'll have a look at lap times come the end of this lap because Sebastian Job is closing in on Rasmussen. 3.7 seconds between the two. Rogers, though, 2 seconds behind Sebastian Job. Alex Simpson in 4th. Ricardo, we know, made that pit stop. He's in 5th. So very close between at least the top 4 at the moment, separated by 7 seconds. And just have a... This is the interesting part. Rasmussen, a 24.2. Job across the line, 24.0. And a 24.1 for Rogers. Connery, how close between the top 3 there? Almost identical, but for the 2 behind Rasmussen, they need to be a lot quicker.
Yeah, very close in lap times, but in terms of position on track, well, not really all that close at this stage. So we'll have to see what the next around about 31.5 laps has to bring in terms of your fight for the race lead. But still a train going on for P number 6. Soren Jonic, Yuho Abe, and David Williams getting himself involved in this one as well, as those head their way through the Maggots and Beckett section. You also got the pair behind, which is Alex Sadler and Moritz Lochner as well, looking to get themselves into a fight coming down into Stowe potentially. You've also got the likes of Labate and Josh Thompson very close, coming through Magnussen Beckers as well. So there seems to be a theme going on here. As Josh Thompson gets a fantastic run coming out of Chapel, will have the DRS coming down the hanging straight. It's going to have to be around the outside at Stowe, which is possible. Freddie Rasmussen showed us that earlier, and Josh Thompson will get the move done, and Labate going to push it a little bit wide there, but that pass was relatively clean for Josh Thompson.
Yep, so Labate drops down to P12, just ahead of Michael Partington. Carlo Labate and Josh Thompson started this race in 28th and 29th respectively, so near the back, and they're just trying to find their way to claim some valuable points here. By the way, Ricardo Orozco, he's 57th in the championship coming into this round, so a top 5 for him will, oh, I mean, you have to celebrate that for sure, Jake. I don't know how high-tech you'd go with your celebrations, how many drinks you'd buy or anything, but that's a very good result if you can maintain this.
It certainly will be, and hopefully he will have that opportunity to be very happy with the exploits that he's done here today at the circuit of Silverstone, but there is still half a race to go, so don't count your chickens just yet. I'm looking at Carlo Labate finally diving onto the lane at the end of lap 29, start of lap 30, so Labate half and halving the stint. He'll be uber quick on those new set of tyres, but the big difference is going to be he's lost a lot of time by staying out those extra probably 7 laps compared to everybody else.
Yep, exactly. So he's got a very long pit stop too. And still in the box, Carlo Labate. So he's lost a lot of time there. Not sure what's going on, but we're almost at the 50% distance mark. Probably a speeding penalty, I'd say, for Carlo Labate. As I think a driver went off. I thought it was Michael Partington. No, just a timing glitch for me, so excuse me there. Michael Partington, P13 possibly, or was he passed by Jorge Montañez, I believe? No, he was, excuse me. So definitely was Montañez filing his way past, Jake.
It was, and that was a poor corner, actually, you would say, from the driver of Michael Partington. It was slung down the inside by Montañez, and he just completely got out of the way and a little bit further. If he left any more room, then he'd probably be halfway across the earth by the time that he would get back onto the racing line. But that's just one way it certainly is looking to work right now. But 0.3 of a second, Job away from Rasmussen, the gap down 3.4.
Yep, so the lead for Freddie Rasmussen, who's led 4 laps of this event. He leads by 3.5 seconds over teammate Sebastian Job. The 2 core sim racing cars have dominated the Pro Series so far, but they've had a challenger in Josh Rogers for this round, who led 25 laps of this event. Just was passed ahead of the pit stop window on lap 21 by the 2 on the same lap as well. It was a double whammy for Josh Rogers. Behind him, Alex Simpson had a strong start from 11th on the grid. He's currently in 4th, only a second behind Rogers, with Ricardo Orozco, who's 57th in the championship. He rounds out the top 5, followed by Zoran Jonic, who had a strong Montreal round and continues here at Silverstone in the 6th position, but very closely challenged by Yuho Abe and David Williams in 7th and 8th. And rounding out the top 10, it's Alex Sadler and Moritz Lochner in the Core Motorsports car, in that purple and yellow car, with no relation to Core Sim Racing in the top 2. Josh Thompson, Jorge Montañez, 11th and 12th. Michael Partington, 13th and 14th. Partington's been all over the place this race, but he still maintains some strong pace. Manuel Domingo, consistent in 15th. Tommy Osgaard, seeing better from him. He's currently in the 16th position. The rest of the top 20, Dan Brewer, Victor Preto, Ficara, Winkler, and the rest of the cars still remaining in this race. Matteo Calestani, Bobby Zelensky, Istvan Ballo, and Carlo Labate, who we saw with that speeding penalty, was a 72km/h limit in the pit lane. It was going 100 kilometers an hour, so he must be confused with maybe another racetrack. Who knows? And our retirements for this event so far, all on the first lap, was Nicholas Rasmussen, Adam Tierney, Aurelien Talamon, Riley Preston, Martin Van Loosenord, Diogo Oliveira, Richard Arnaud, and Eric Andre in Jesse Neiman, and joined them only a few laps ago. The 5-time World Championship winner, not boding well in his first Pro Series race for the 2017-18 iRacing Road Pro Series. So we'll take a quick short break here midway through the event. Join us shortly for the second half of this race. It's been a thrilling one so far. Don't leave us.
earlier.
Welcome back to round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series for 2017-18. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth alongside Jake Sperry and Connery Maddock, with Will Vincent producing and hosting behind the scenes. And Jake, we come to this second half of the event, and it looks like Freddie Rasmussen's actually pulling away from Sebastian Job, but it's happening at a very weird rate, as we also look at a couple of battles going on. Tommy Oscar having a look at Michael Partington. Montañez close to Spolstra, but Sebastian Job there in second place can't catch his teammate in the lead.
No, he can't, and we're seeing retirements as well. Massimiliano Ficarra now out of the event, so the issues are forthcoming, and they are starting to deteriorate this field down to just what has to be said is a 23 cars running 22 on the leading lap. But Fredrik Rasmussen has been doing a good job at getting himself away, but that last lap a lot slower because of the traffic of Carlo Labate he had to deal with. So that allows the train to close down of Job, Rogers and Simpson, and that's the big worry, is the vehicle in position number 4, Alex Simpson, right now closes that gap to 1.1 to the driver of Josh Rogers. Took a few thousandths of a second off of him that last lap, and I think Alex Simpson probably is the biggest worry out of the entirety of the field.
Yeah, we'll keep one eye on that. And at the same time, Connery, the start of the event was quite dramatic, you could say the least, really, because there were a lot of cars involved and out of the event on the first lap. It was Riley Preston initially who had a jump start. Sebastian Job had some major wheel spin. and the two collided with each other. As we now look at Michael Partington, Tommy Osgaard here on the hangar straight, but the two collided and it caused chaos behind as Osgaard will file his way through straight past Michael Partington for P14.
Yeah, pretty easily done with the DRS for the Danish driver, Norwegian driver, sorry. As I think he'd be offended if I called him Danish, but Osgaard making his way through on Partington, and now Osgaard's PSR teammate, Manu Domingo, also looking for the opportunity over the ERT driver as well. So that we'll see what happens here as they head their way down into Abbey, and Manu Domingo can actually look for the move right now. He takes the inside line away from Michael Partington, side by side through the second apex as well. Here comes Dan Brewer as well. The other ERT driver makes his way through, and Partington didn't really make his life much of an issue there, as Dan Brewer and Michael Partington, both teammates, Brewer through, Manu Domingo through as well.
Yep, the two have also been competitors for a few years, but this time Dan Brewer gets the upper hand of Michael Partington, who's, again, he has these, I don't know, what's the best way to put it, Jake? He has up and down roller coaster races in a way. And at the moment, I don't know whether this is a good race or a bad race for Mike Partington so far, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. He started the race in P15. He's currently in 17th.
I'd call it a good race with the illness he's struggling with. I've said it all day long, and I believe nobody's been listening. And there's DRS range as well between Simpson and Josh Rogers to keep an eye out on. But Michael Partington's really been struggling, just trying to bring the vehicle home, keep it on the island. And I think he's struggling a lot more than people will give him credit for. And I think he's doing a good job just to keep it on the island.
So let's have a look at Alex Simpson here on lap 38 of the event as they begin that lap 38. Through Copse. Has to make sure he doesn't get too wide on the exit of the corner. There's Dirty Air to help impede Alex Simpson and slow him down through the corner. Rogers, though, takes some very wide lines through Maggots and Beckett's. Simpson, no more than experienced around his virtual home racetrack. Flicks on DRS, is the only driver out of the top four to have DRS on the driver in front. And creeps closer and closer to Josh Rogers, who's led the most laps of this event so far. That could change, though, if Freddie Rasmussen stays in P number 1. How close, Connery, is Alex Simpson getting here to Josh Rogers? Closer and closer. He's got another DRS zone to help. Couple of lap cars ahead to possibly get in the way. Hopefully not.
Possibly get in the way, possibly help Joshua Rogers with the DRS. Right now, it would be a small respite, considering that Alex Simpson has been absolutely reeling him in for the past couple of laps. 0.4 of a second was the advantage to the Apex Racing UK driver that last time by, as they head through the final couple of corners now at the end of the lap here, heading through Lovefield. That lapped car is going to be the 24 of Carlo Labate there, so hopefully he'll get out of the way without too many issues and let the leaders through. But Alex Simpson could be a good run coming through Maggots Beckers. They're coming up through Copse Corner now. But with the lap times that Alex Simpson has been saying, then he'll be within passing range of Joshua Rogers in the not too distant future. Let's see what happens with the lap traffic. In the middle of Maggots and Becker's section right now. Joshua Rogers will definitely be feeling the dirty air effect from the lapped car, as he will get the DRS off the lapped car. So that will start off a move from Alex Simpson coming down into Stowe, as he will go side by side with the lapped car, and lap car not getting out the way. Oh, that was very close there. Cutting it very, very close with the lap traffic. Was actually a little bit of a little bit of contact between the two cars there. Just sort of contact with the front wing with the rear wheel of Joshua Rogers there. I don't think he'll have any damage as a result, but you don't want to be cutting it that fine.
Yeah, well, Carlo Labate there could have really hampered his own reputation in a way. But the ERT car continues, possibly unscathed, who knows? And so Alex Simpson behind has still got some work to do to get in front of Josh Rogers, who, the young man, he's very fast. Is he tough mentally? Who knows? We're going to find out soon. But Alex Simpson, he's 5th in the championship. Rogers in 4th up ahead. So this is a big scrap for some vital points. I think at this stage of the race, Jake, as we're 2/3 through the event, for these two, you think it's a good result in 3rd and 4th, but we spoke about how important this result is for Ricardo Orozco. He might be having a very boring event with no one in front, no one behind, but I think he'll be enjoying every second of this 5th place finish at the moment, which he's on for.
Yeah, and Ricardo Orozco, arguably a driver who I think a lot of people had high hopes for heading into this season. He was very good in the iRacing Grand Prix series about 6 months ago to 3 months ago. So I think a lot of expectation is on the Brazilian shoulders. Maybe he hasn't shown it too much in the opening parts of the season. So maybe it's a chance for him to recover later on. But right now, what you have to say is that we do have battles up and down the field. We've seen Istvan Balo pull away from Bobby Zelensky in the last few laps, but we've still got likes of Brewer and Domingo just trying to see the flicker of flames. And of course, Williams, Arbe, Jonjic. And I think Zoran Jonjic here is being what I like to be called Gregor Hutud at this stage by Juho Arbe.
Yes. Well, I'm not going to comment on that, but I'm not commenting on that. So, what was I going to say? Now, Jake, you've stumped me so much. I forgot my next point. Oh, here we go. So, I was going to bring up Alex Simpson is at Silverstone. And it's a good topic, actually, for both of you who, you know, people think you're at your virtual home racetrack and they're like, this has nothing to do with anything. There's no home crowd cheering me on or anything. But the way I like to see it, Connery, first of all, is that you do practice the most at your home tracks. And in my opinion, the UK has Silverstone and definitely the country with the best racetracks in the world. There's so many good racetracks here on iRacing too. You look at Alton Park, for example, one of them, Donington too. But that's why you find home drivers very fast at their home tracks.
Yeah, exactly. And you got some of, for example, the sort of the iRacing Club series. Like I know the UK and I do run quite a couple of series in cars like the Kias there. As Abe does have a run on Jonjic coming down into Stowe, but it doesn't seem like he has the straight line speed. But returning back to my point, the UK and I drivers definitely, absolutely love these British tracks. They hold special places in our hearts, and we race them quite a lot in our own leagues. So we are perhaps much more used to them than a couple of these other drivers.
Is that the same case for you, Jake? I mean, I'm not just sucking up to the UK because you guys are here, but the UK has the best racing circuits in the world. But by far, not even a question. Should get the gold medal in the Olympics just for that. Just add one to your total for next year.
It seems that they have some very good circuits, and you can't argue that they do. Whether they're the best for Formula One racing, now that's maybe a different story when more than meets the eye, but what you have to say, though, is, you know, it doesn't matter how much you try and keep going, you always look to try and see if there's going to be patterns emerging. And the big one is Job is losing a lot of time here compared to Josh Rogers. Half a second on that last lap is now going to soon become a 3-car scrap for second, third, and fourth.
Yep, and Alex Simpson lost DRS. He didn't have it there on the hanger straight, so the man from the country which has the best racing circuits in the world is going to have a huge challenge on his hands here come the end of the event. By the way, I said next year. I got mixed up with the World Cup. The FIFA World Cup's on next year. I was talking about the Olympics, which is in a few more years. But anyway, they're headed towards the Abbey chicane. Sebastian Job, though, he's very close up the road here. He's half a second slower than Josh Rogers' last lap there, Jake. So Josh Rogers here on a charge, and this is where, because they made those later pit stops, this is where Sebastian Job could be caught come the end of the event.
He could, and he's losing ground to Frederick Rasmussen, who's now starting to fall away more and more. So Job right now looking to be under pressure here from Josh Rogers, and Rogers knows that he's just got to keep that pressure down. The gap as they cross the line, that was a 4/10 improvement though for Sebastian Job in comparison to Josh Rogers. So it comes back into a battle of two as Alex Simpson does a 24.4 on that last lap to get himself back into play in this event. Alex Simpson now looking for a podium.
Yep, and Dan Brewer had a spin around Stowe. Very difficult corner to keep this car balanced. He's lost the position to Michael Partington, and he's lost a heap of time too come the end of the event. So not what Dan Brewer needed. But for Alex Simpson, he's back in DRS range, back in the challenge. Juho Abe as well. He's got a shot here on the hanger straight. He's going to flick on DRS, and he could find his way past Zoran Jonjic. Oh, he's been stuck an eternity since the pit stop phase. Here's Juho Abe for P6, straight up the inside, and he maintains the line. He's going to find his way into P6 quite easily there. No fight back from Zoran Jonjic. We'll have a look here into Vale. David Williams also close behind in that Koana Sim Sport car. He's been stuck behind these two for the entire stint. He won't be able to capitalize, or maybe he possibly will. DRS available here, heading to the Abbey chicane. Jonic doesn't go defensive. Williams up the inside. Does he get the car stopped in time? He does. Cuts in on the corner. Brilliant pass there, Connery, from David Williams. And Jonic finally broken come the second stint.
Yeah, Jonic definitely left the door open heading up into Abbey, and David Williams is going to take that opportunity 100% of the time. He's just that sort of driver. If you give him a gap, he just will go for it no matter what, and that's exactly what has happened there. Just puts him up another position. Abbey also getting himself up that position as well. So finally, that these two drivers are released now. But both Abbey and Williams are released from the train of Jonic, shall we say. So they're able to get away and show the true pace that they are made of. The battle for being number 3, though. Job spinning.
Oh,
yep, he's off, Jake. Oh, wow.
And that was all on his own. No effort around it. It was at the Vale. He just got a little bit too greedy into the corner. Maybe ever so slightly clipped the grass. If not, he was just too lazy heading into that corner, not getting that vehicle slowed down enough. It's torque oversteer. It's enough to say Job drops himself back to position 4.
Yeah, wow. He's got a little bit hot. Yeah, and again, did he touch the wall there?
Yes.
Oh, goodness me. He's touched the wall as well. Sebastian Job is out of the event. Oh, man. And climbing into the podium position is Alex Simpson in 3rd. So Josh Rogers becomes 2nd, but Job there on the exit, and he's heading towards bridge. This was the exit of the Abbey chicane onto the curbs. No traction. And remember, this is the corner where drivers have spins. They come to the exit of the Abbey chicane, and this is the same corner where most drivers have or make those mistakes that Seb made. And, oh, man, he's out of the event. Wow, that's just incredible, Connery, for his championship challenge.
Yeah, that is absolutely huge. And you have to say, if you're Sebastian Job, it's going to be, well, you do have one of your drop weeks to use in these first 6 rounds. So this is probably going to end up being his drop week now. But the thing is, after this, he can't afford to make any more mistakes for the rest of this season.
So, oh, man, I can't believe it. So Sebastian Job. Well, the good news is that Rogers and Simpson are in 2nd and 3rd, and that battle continues for those final 2 podium spots. Ricardo Orozco promoted to 4th, and that pass by Juho Abe for 6th position now becomes a top 5 possible finish, with David Williams close behind in 6th. So, Jake, at this stage, it looks like Freddie Rasmussen has one hand on the trophy, but is there anything that Josh Rogers can do come the end of this event to catch Freddie Rasmussen? There's only 15 laps remaining.
Survive. It's not a case of look in front right now, Johnny. It's look behind at Alex Simpson, because Simpson will happily sit, happily wait, and just wait for Josh Rogers to struggle and just buckle and bend and break. And you feel that Alex Simpson has the pace here, if he wants to bring himself back in. Rogers is responding, though. The gap is a 2nd now, looking maybe a little bit over in this event. But don't count out the battle going on all the way through to 9th from 5th backwards, because Lohner and Sadler, they're only 2 seconds or so away from Zoran Jonic. This race is not over for the final spots inside the top 10.
Definitely not. So Alex Sadler, who is in 8th, started in 19th. Josh Thompson, more impressively, though, 29th in the grid. Currently in the top 10. He's got a 5-second buffer on Boris Spolstra in 11th. Spolstra, we know what happened to him. Didn't he have a, what wasn't again... Jake, it was a speeding penalty, wasn't it? So
jump start.
A jump start, excuse me. So he's had a quite remarkable comeback, you could say. He's on towards a top 10 finish here, Jake. That's just brilliant for Boris Spolstra. And, you know, yet again, I'm getting confused because I reckon half this grid are ERT cars, but he's another Evolution Racing Team car.
He is, and well, you could say it was a speeding penalty off the line, maybe, shall you say, in terms of having a jump start. But Boris Spolstra, yes, making that recovery, and what a recovery it is as well. I said it would be a lot more helpful seeing how many vehicles are out of this event. Now into 11th when he was back out of the top 20. And right now, you'd have to feel for Boris Spolstra. He's in a very good position now to just keep himself within his limits, get himself home, and actually score some really good points after what was a very difficult start, I think, for him right now. But the big issue, or the big thing we need to look at right now, is David Williams, because he's looking for that top 5 and he's looking to gain +9 for his day.
Yeah, man. And David Williams, who he's been in, I mean, Connor, he's been in, involved in all the world's fastest gamer stuff, and he's a driver coach as well. He's a very polite man. I spoke to him on my podcast too. He's insanely quick at the same time. This is very important for him to get a World Championship license for next year and join his Coanda teammates, and Coanda champion, for example, of Martin Kroenke.
Yeah, of course, Williams does already have a World Championship license, but that is in the Blancpain GT series, driving for Coanda in the GT3 machines here. But he's been doing a very, very good job transferring his skills over to this McLaren. It seems like he's definitely on the pace with most of the rest of the guys here. Running P number 6 right now, possible top 5 for him if he can get himself past Juho Abe. But right now, the lap time advantages have been going to Abe. But again, David Williams, he's had a lot more on his plate as well over the past week, because he did that Le Mans 24-hour race in the World's Fastest Gamer event. So he must be feeling a little bit tired, just still trying to recover after that one. But considering that, it's still a fantastic run.
And a mental challenge, Jake, for David Williams, because sim racing is very much a test of your mental strength at the moment. And not just that, but your endurance too, and your thinking, because at this level, and I've driven at this level before too, it's just that one mistake, your race is over. And so for David Williams right now, this is, I mean, we just can't exaggerate how impressive this is right now, to do all the racing he has over the past few days and still be consistent enough to finish in 6th at the moment, possibly a top 5 result, but only 31 seconds from the lead at the same time.
Exactly, and I think David Williams has done a cracking job. He missed the opening round of the season, but that means he has no drop weeks to work with, and he's just got 9 races to just get himself through again and again. He's proving that it doesn't matter where you put him on the grid, Williams will get himself into those top 10 positions. And with a lot of the main protagonists struggling here today, you talk about Job, you talk about Preston, you talk about the likes of drivers like Diogo Oliveira as well. You know, you put yourself in a situation where everyone's struggling, you need to deliver, and that's what David Williams has done here today. He has delivered himself inside the top 10. He wants to deliver even further, beat everyone's expectations, and get into the top 5. The only issue is Juho Abe right now, the Japanese driver, is saying no thank you.
Yep, Juho Abe, who's a very quick driver and very strong defensively too, and he's proving that today in round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series. The ERT team, though, Connery, Evolution Racing Team, for those who aren't familiar, they're a very heavily reinforced team this season, and so we should definitely see a few of those cars on the grid for 2018. What other challenges or would they face for the World Championship next year? Because it's not just about getting a car onto the grid for them, but surely they want to compete for good top 10 results.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that they will be competing for good top 10 results, especially with the caliber of drivers that they have. But it's just a case of keeping the team together right now, because I know some of the teams do this. They do this in the Oval Pro Series as well. These super teams start to form with so many drivers trying to stack out the field. But then once the actual World Championship Series rolls around, and then those teams start to sort of split up, drivers start to go their own ways. So it's going to have to be a decision that ERT management has to make as to what can they do to keep all their drivers interested in driving for them.
Yep, so Freddie Rasmussen now is coming towards the lap car of Istvan Ballo, who gets out of the way. And, excuse me, sorry, he's on the hanger straight now. So Rasmussen, lap 50 of 60, 11 laps to go in this event, Jake. And so far he's on his way towards eclipsing Josh Rogers' lap sled mark. If he crosses the line, it'll be 24 lap sled for Rasmussen, 25 for Rogers so far. And so Freddie, we know what happened last round at Montreal, he almost was passed by Sebastian Job. He hasn't had it easy really the last 2 races, but he's going to finish out on top regardless, and I think that's all that matters to him at the moment. And is there any other forms of praise or criticism you could give him?
Well, I'd say laps led doesn't account for too much here. The only lap that really matters that you lead is the last one here when it comes to a race. But I think for Frederick Rasmussen, yes, he struggled a little bit here at this event. Yes, he's been under the cosh, and maybe you could say he was a little slow to make the move compared to Josh Rogers, but I can't put a foot wrong with Frederick Rasmussen. He's driven a perfect race for Frederick Rasmussen. There's not much more you can do. I'm more worried, though, about Josh Rogers because he looks very twitchy now through the corners. Maybe the tyres starting to just get away from him a little bit as he had a 24/7. Alex Simpson now just 0.4 of a second back.
Yeah, Alex Simpson very close. It's 10 laps to go as Freddie Rasmussen crossed the line. He leads by 7 seconds over these two of Rogers and Simpson behind. We'll have a look at this as we look at the rest of the top 10 results at the same time. The top 10 places at the moment, I should say, as Simpson flicks on DRS. Orozco in 4th. He's currently 57th in the championship coming into this round. What a result for him so far. He's also led a lap along with his current provisional 4th place result. Yuhoabe with a 5th place result at the moment. If he stays on track for the next 10 laps, he is 1.8 seconds ahead of David Williams, who's falling behind more and more. He lost 0.6 last lap, David Williams, so minor moment for him. Zoran Jonjic in 7th, Sadler in 8th, Moritz Lochner 9th, and Josh Thompson from 29th on the grid into the top 10 at the moment. Those drivers from P6 to P10 of Williams, Jonjic, Sadler, Lochner, and Thompson all started outside the top 13. So brilliant results for them at the moment. Look at Boris Spolstra in 11th, Oscar 12th. Then it's Montañez, Domingo, Partington, Brewer, Prato, Winkler, Kalastani, Ballo, Zelensky, and Carlo Labate, the last driver remaining in this race. 22 cars still remaining in the field. Connery, look at Alex Simpson, though, heading into Copse. He's getting closer and closer, but again, the dirty air doesn't help. He eases off the throttle, and then he powers his way through this first sector of Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, I think Alex Simpson is just being just a little cautious here. He doesn't want to force the move over Joshua Rogers. Doesn't want to push too hard and risk ending up in the barriers like Sebastian Job did when he had that little bit of a lazy spin, and then with the overheated tires caused more issues later on in the lap. So he doesn't actually require this P number 2. P number 3 is going to be absolutely fine for him in terms of points. So in terms of getting himself inside the top 10 in points at the end of this race, well, at the end of this whole series as well. So Alex Simpson, he's going to take the opportunity if it arises, but I don't think he'll force the opportunity.
He's more than experienced not to do that, so we'll see what happens in these remaining laps. I wouldn't think he would, Jake, right? I mean, he knows that the top 10 is more important than the P2 in this race. I mean, top 10 in the championship, I should say. So you think he's going to throw it up the inside somewhere or make a dive bomb at Vale or in the Abbey chicane? I don't know what you'd expect out of Alex.
Sorry, I just, if I jump in here, sorry, Johnny, but I just saw Tommy Ostgaard out.
Oh, wow. So
I believe they're technical in nature, though.
Yep, Tommy Ostgaard, he's out of the event, isn't he? Just a technical issue, and so he joins the retirement list of Sebastian Job, Ficarra, and a whole lot of other names there who are out on the first lap as well. But going back to that point, Jake, about Alex Simpson, what do you expect out of him? What's his tendencies?
I think Alex Simpson is a very calculated character, and as an astute businessman and someone who definitely knows what is expected of him, he knows that he won't risk that vehicle when it gets right down to it. If he has a chance to make a clean move, he'll make a clean move. If there's only a half chance, I don't expect him to make that move on Josh Rogers. I expect him to wait for the championship. So right now, what you have to say is Alex Simpson will wait for the opportunity on Josh Rogers. Rogers will now just have to be clean for the last 7 laps or so when he crosses the line.
So very close through Brooklands, but Rogers looks on it. These two pitted around the same time, so tire life shouldn't be an issue for either one of them. They pitted quite later compared to Freddie Rasmussen and Sebastian Job, for example. Job out of the event, obviously, of course, as we know. It won't be another Core Sim Racing 1-2. Rogers and Simpson here to spoil that party. They put some pressure on Job. And that both, I mean, that goes to say, Connery, that Yeah, I know it was an error from Sebastian Job, but there was a lot of pressure as well from these two behind. We have to give them credit because these two were putting the pressure on the core sim racing duo, and that's why Job found himself going very hot into Vale.
Yeah, and that's a quite an uncharacteristic unforced error from Job there. He's just, he had absolutely no one around him. You could say he was pressure from a distance from behind, but as those two cars were catching, but still, it's just not something that I've really seen Seb do before in his recent return. So that is definitely a very interesting one there. Is watching the battle between Zoran Jonjic and Alex Sadler right now. You can also count Moritz Lodner in this one as well, as he is not too far behind these guys. So it could be a 3-car 5P number 7 coming into the final 6 laps of this event.
We know Freddie Rasmussen, too, is going to lead the most laps in this event. Nobody can eclipse him. Actually, Josh Rogers still can. What am I saying? If anything goes wrong for Freddie Rasmussen. Now, Jake, we spoke last round about commentary curses, and I don't want any of that happening this round. So we're going to hope that everything's clean for Freddie come the end of this race. But Rogers, Simpson close behind, Orozco 4th. Arbe 5th. It's a huge gap between Orozco and Arbe, and I bring that up because Ricardo Orozco, despite having a poor couple of first rounds, he is, I mean, like, seriously, 16 seconds away from Freddie Rasmussen in the lead. That's insane for Ricardo Orozco. I mean, I've hardly ever seen that before, so Ricardo is insanely quick at the moment.
And I'll tell you what is really interesting, 9 different teams inside of the top 9 positions. That just shows you just how diverse and difficult this field is, and how much we've talked about how, oh, it's only a 3-car series. 9 vehicles inside the top 9. I wouldn't argue against that in this situation, but Orozco has been very quick. He's shown some of the pace that we've seen out of him that has challenged the likes of Decorps in the past, that has challenged the likes of drivers like Peter Berryman and co. This is what we like to see from Ricardo Orozco, but there is more to life than just that right now, because still, Alex Sadler looking to prove himself as part of this new team at Radicals. And with Zoran Jonjic just in front, the issue is going to be that Orion car is very, very good on its top speed. I'm not sure how Alex Sadler makes his way past.
But Alex Sadler's got very quick top speed as well, so who knows? As they all continue through Brooklands now. We'll keep track of this because remember at the early stages of the event, we saw Alex Sadler, Connery, making some very rapid moves. And so who knows what's going to happen at the end of the race. Does he have enough power in that McLaren MP430 with the ERS management? What's he doing towards the end of this event as he heads through Cops with 5 laps to go?
Yeah, so right now at this stage, he's safely inside the top 10, so not really any pressure to get this move done. And he's also gained, what is that, going to be 11 positions in this race alone. So we know that he can make those positions up as there's a battle going on between Zelensky and Labate here, heading their way down into Vale. I think that was Labate just making his way past there on the Peak Entry Series driver.
Yep, so those two in a scrap, but I mean, Zelensky was a sitting duck on the hangar straight at the same time, so Labate, who had a very long pit stop, is now in P20, and that's just a little bit of motivation for him for next round. Little smile on his face for that late move, but he'll be a very grim man come the end of this event. Carlo Labate in the top 20 at the moment. He's got 14 seconds to make up on this Van Ballo, so you'd really not expect him to make that up over the next 4 laps, but you look at lap times as well. The top 3 almost identical in the 24.6 to 24.8 range. Yuho Abe in the 24.6 range as well. He has to push because David Williams is close behind in P6. So something happened to Williams there, Jake. It could have been lapping a car. Something happened. Who knows? But that time really cost him when he lost those 6/10. Now come the end of the event, I think he's just trying to put some late pressure on Abe for the final time.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how David Williams is going to manage it, but Yuho Abe has been able to pull away from David Williams, and there's not much that David Williams could really do. Poor exit though from Alex Sadler will now put him under more in the graces of Moritz Lohner, who will have the double toe on the run in towards the right-hander of Stowe. No moves going to be available, but this is where the DRS-ERS train comes into play, and it's all down to Sadler getting a good run out of Chapel. If he can't do that, he won't get past Jonjic, but look at how Lohner closes up again in traditional Lohner fashion, and if he gets a good run here, does Moritz Lohner, which I don't think he had, he may have had a chance heading into the Abbey chicane.
Yeah, Moritz Lohner is looking quick, but so is Alex Sadler in front of him too. So these three drivers in the scrap for P7. Williams close in the battle for P5, and Alex Simpson now dropped out of DRS range from Josh Rogers in P2nd. Couple of other scraps as well. Liz Van Ballo close to Carl Winkler. Bobby Zelensky as well. He's dropping behind Carlo Labate after that move a few laps ago. Manuel Domingo behind Jorge Montañez. So the two PSR cars, hopefully no team orders between the two. And here they come now towards the end of the event. Moritz Lohner and a Copse through Maggots and Beckett's. It's so hard to steer this 700 kilogram McLaren MP430 at the end of the event. The Pirelli tire is starting to wear out. DRS open though. Alex Sadler looking at Jonjic. The same for Lohner, who's looking at Sadler. But all three here in that little train. And this is the train we see in the McLaren since it was brought into existence, Jake. These DRS and ERS trains. It's a very small one here, but Lohner creeps in close at Vale. Will he get a good exit this time round?
Well, look at that. He goes tight to the apex, looking to get the run on Sadler, but Sadler again will also have the DRS, which counteracts Lohner's charge towards Abbey. And you can see Moritz Lohner feels he's quicker, but he's just got nothing really left in the tank to get past the man who is plus 11 for the day so far. And with just 2 laps to go in this event, I'm not sure how Moritz Lohner gets past both of them, if even one.
So here they come out of Luffield. Lohner straight lining. That car is planted. And he just can't make any time here on Alex Sadler as they head towards Copse here, looking for the marker in their turning point. Lohner ignoring any claims of dirty air. There was almost absolutely nothing for him through Copse. He is very close through Maggots and Beckett's here. With 2 laps remaining, Lohner's got a shot here at P8, and Alex Sadler's going to be under attack here from the Core Motorsports car. DRS enabled for the both of them, but Alex Sadler's got a lot of straight line speed in that Radicals Online car, and he will surely maintain P8 heading into Stowe. But what about Vale? This is where Lohner's been very quick and very strong under braking. Deep on the brakes, but not close enough, Connery, for Moritz Lohner to climb his way into P8.
Just a little bit closer is what Lohner needs to be right now, because he can get those moves done on the brakes. He's basically the Daniel Ricciardo of this field right now, going so much later on the brakes than everyone else in this field, yet still doesn't lock up, still manages to make the corner. And if Sadler leaves the door open with Lohner close enough, he's definitely going to make the move, and he's definitely at least very likely to make that one stick as they head towards the end of the lap now.
Yep, final lap though, Jake, and Freddie Rasmussen's rounding his way through. We'll keep an eye on those battles, but Freddie Rasmussen, what an event for him. He's been consistent, and he's led most of this event so far, and it was a brilliant pass for the lead earlier on, and so far he's looking towards his 2nd race win of the Pro Series.
He is, and it's fantastic to see Freddie in this sort of form, and this is the Freddie that we all know and love over this season, and we know that Rasmussen means business then in multiple categories as he now heads himself to the infield section for the final time.
Only a couple more corners to go for Freddie Rasmussen. He'll head towards Brooklands and then Luffield. There'll be 2 wins in a row for the Core Sim Racing driver, but his teammate won't join him for a 1-2 for the first time this season. But what a valiant effort from Freddie Rasmussen, and he will win round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series. Brilliant victory for Freddie Rasmussen, 7 seconds ahead of Josh Rogers, who will come home in 2nd, joined by Apex Racing UK's Alex Simpson, who rounds out the podium in 3rd. What an event for Positive Sim Racing's Ricardo Orozco. He comes home in 4th. And we have to wait a few more seconds for Yuho Abe behind, who will claim a top 5 finish ahead of David Williams. Williams couldn't do anything in that battle. He will finish 6th. Behind there, Jonjic, clean through the final couple of corners, stays ahead of Alex Sadler and Moritz Lochner. That battle, nothing happened on the final lap. Those 3 remained in the same spots. But what a finish for Josh Thompson, who started in 29th. He comes across the line and claims a top 10 finish. He'll be celebrating for sure in that Radicals Online car. Him and Alex Sadler, 2 Radicals cars in the top 10. Brilliant result for them. What a race though, Connery, from Freddie Rasmussen. Another brilliant victory.
Yep, an absolutely incredible race for him. Not so much for his teammate, of course. Job having those spins that unfortunately has put him out of the race, but Rasmussen, just a textbook race from start to finish. Once his teammates started to drop away after that after the final stops there, well, he was just basically off and away and was pretty much always likely to win this race from that point forward. And that kind of surprises me. Usually we see Rasmussen struggling with the tires more than Job, but Job, he really didn't deliver today because of those mistakes.
And Jake for Rogers behind. He had pole position. He had a shot at victory, but just wasn't quick enough in the end. And so he'll be back to the drawing board to find a way to knock off these very strong core sim racing drivers.
He will, and Josh Rogers will know that being within 7.5 seconds leading laps against them is only a positive he can take away. And TTL Esports, not necessarily well known for a Formula 1 adventure, but Josh Rogers proving just how good he can be when not with the best team you could argue here on the grid in terms of team collective, but on his own, Josh Rogers, he's taking it to the big boys. I tell you this right now, if you get the right team behind him, he will certainly look to prove that he can be a massive commodity for the future.
Certainly someone to invest to for the future, but we'll look at the final race results for round number 3 of the iRacing Road Pro Series for 2017-18. So Freddie Rasmussen wins after 1 hour and 25 minutes. Very quick event at Silverstone with the high top speeds here. Josh Rogers behind in 2nd, 7.5 seconds behind. He had pole position, not enough to claim victory. Alex Simpson in 3rd, rounds out the podium. Bit of champagne for him in his home event. Orozco, what a brilliant event in 4th, followed by Yuho Abe in 5th. Williams and Jonjic, and Williams couldn't get past Abe, but Jonjic stayed ahead of Sadler and Lochner towards the end of the event. That was a very good battle. Thompson, brilliant result for the Radicals Online team. 8th and 10th for them with Sadler and Thompson. That's our top 10 done. The rest of the drivers on the lead lap, Boris Spolstra, who had that jump start penalty, could have achieved a lot better than P11, but he'll be content with that after what happened with Montañez and Domingo behind. Michael Partington had quite a dramatic event. So did Dan Brewer. They find themselves in 14th and 15th. The remaining drivers on that lead lap: Victor Prieto, Calistani, they're 16th, 17th. And then we had Winkler, Ballo, Labate, and Bobby Zielinski, our remaining drivers who completed this event. They were 1 lap behind. Some retirements as well. Oscar with technical issues. Sebastian Job with a spin and some damage there. Massimiliano Ficado as well. Nieminen, the World Championship veteran, returning to the series, returning to the Pro Series at least, finding his way down there in P25, not classified in this event, and a lot of retirements on the first lap. We know what happened with Riley Preston. Van Loos, nod some big names, Oliveira too. They did not take part in this event for any more than a few seconds. So join us shortly for our post-race coverage here from the RaceSpot TV commentary booth. You're watching the iRacing Road Pro Series for 2017-18. Don't leave us. Driver interviews coming up next.
tell you one thing. They didn't say qualifying for the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series was going to be easy, and today we've seen that again. We've had moments from the very start that took out the drivers like Riley Preston, Martin van Loozenhoort. We've had a former race winner in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series basically be the slowest driver on the racetrack. We've had battles for the lead. We've had battles standing in mid-pack. We've had solo incidents that have taken out the likes of Sebastian Job and others. And if you survive Silverstone today, and you're one step closer to getting the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series license, then my friend, you've done a good job. Will Vincent here, along with Jonathan Simone and Jake Sperry. This is the Road Pro Series post-race show here on RaceSpot TV and on iRacing Live. And immediately, I want to start off, and we're just going to put the camera on here and show you what happened at the start of this motor race on board from Sebastian Job. He's not your race winner. We'll do it now. So here we are, we're on board, having a look at him here. You can see he had a slow and sluggish start, and that just cost him to run into Riley Preston, and from then, pandemonium. Quite literally, it was a horrific incident that we saw. You can see it there again. And, you know, I'm just trying to count at least a dozen drivers involved in that first lap incident, 4 cars upside down. Now, Johnny, I was saying this as we were off air. That's not the sort of thing I want to see as a broadcaster. And I think, you know, last time we could always joke about the fact that maybe, just maybe, we could have let it go. But this time, I'm sorry, there's got to be some form of an intervention, because we can't have every single race for the championship starting off with an incident that takes out a third of the field.
Yeah, I mean, look, part of the reason is a lot of these drivers are inexperienced, but there's no excuse for that. You know, this is still world class. The other reason is that everyone's still hungry because there's only 10 licenses they can hand out for 2018. So I think what they do have to realize is it's not one on the first lap. Today, what happened was just a chain of events that was just so unfortunate. I mean, the jump start by Preston, first of all, and then Job had some major wheel spin. And just remember as well, Sebastian Job always talks about how horrible his starts are. So today, he's probably thinking, okay, I need to figure out a solution to these poor starts. I'm going to try and get it right. And it's completely gone the opposite way. So there is a huge starting issue for Sebastian Job in the McLaren MP430 that he needs to solve. And I just think today it's really dropped down and hammered his confidence quite a lot in the worst way possible for him with that poor start.
Jake, you know, last time he was joking about if he qualifies, he might get himself a hand clutch. I think there's probably a couple of people right now who's willing to offer him one from his team, from sponsors, etc. Because you know what? Yeah. That's 2 really bad starts in a row. And that is what... And I'm not blaming Job for the incident. I need to be clear and say that. But what I do need to say is that is what started off the chain of events. And this run down to Copse Corner at Silverstone is far narrower in terms of barriers and grass than a lot of the racetracks will go to. So you're making an incident at the start, it will compound pretty much immediately.
Not the first time it's happened in World Championship format either, Will. If you go back to Blancpain, I believe it was this year, we had the major incident that happened on that start. So it's not too akin to Silverstone to see an incident like that happen. And I think that Sebastian Job, he'll take a lot out of this. He'll learn and he'll move forward with it. But you find yourself in incidents all the time, and it's 2 first lap incidents in a row. Yes, drivers do get greedy. Yes, they want to win the race from lap 1 and try and gain as many positions as possible. But sometimes, you know, that doesn't happen. People don't see things the way they do. And, you know, I think some people just want to just get a clean race under their belt. You talk about how different the championship now looks. Let's take David Williams, for example, who's only run 2 races. And in those 2 races, he's now 14th in the championship. He's the top driver to have not run that opening round and get himself up there. If you can get to P14 by surviving 2 first lap incidents, you have to say fair credit.
Let's look one more time at your top 10 as it stands then from this motor race. Freddie Rasmussen wins by 7.7 seconds over Joshua Rogers. Alex Simpson third, Ricardo Orozco in fourth, Yuhu Abe in fifth place, Williams in sixth, Zoran Zhoniak in seventh place, Alex Sadler, Moritz Lerner and Josh Thompson round out your top 10. There is so much that we have to talk about here in our post-race show. To start, we're going to start with the driver who came in second place here today. He qualified in pole position, could not convert that one into a race win, Jonathan, but he still gets the silver medal for coming home in second.
Yep, exactly. Here alongside Josh Rogers in our post-race coverage. And Josh, first of all, I mean, pole position for you, that's a thrilling start. But not only that, you matched the same pole time the second time round. It was the exact same lap time. Why didn't that pace translate to the race?
Hey boys. Look, I think for me personally, I'm the kind of driver that prefers that cold temp, having a lot of grip underneath you. And I think once I jumped in the race server and I saw that weather, I knew I was going to struggle with tyre life in comparison to Core and Apex, which have been known to have brilliant tyre life this season, which you could probably tell in the first stint. Under pressure from Freddie and Seb, I definitely started to cook my tyres a little bit. It wasn't until the second stint where I kind of composed myself and made sure that I didn't hurt my tyre too much, because I mean ultimately I wanted to go a bit longer in that first stint, but then everyone else kind of pitted, and obviously the undercut's incredibly strong in this car, so I really couldn't leave it too long. But yeah, all in all, great result. Incredibly happy with the pace and the result, obviously.
It didn't come easy though, because you were passed by both Core Sim Racing cars on the same lap within just a couple of corners. Talk about that stage of the race for you, because you were approaching the pit window. They ended up passing you. Did that change your plans at all come pit stop time? Because they did make pit stops a lot earlier than you decided to.
Yeah, ultimately it did. I kind of wanted to pit around the lap 27, 28 mark. I think I pitted 25 or something. I was just incredibly worried about how my rear tyres especially would handle in that second stint. I think the car being lighter seems to take some load off that tyre and make it handle a little bit better over a long run. But yeah, that was pretty much what was behind that.
Yeah, it looked like the tyres were off the cliff for you when we were watching you, and I was actually a bit happy when you entered the pit lane. But last thing I want to say is that I mean, this race has been so critical for you, because you didn't get the race win, but P2 not only helps you with the championship challenge, it puts you up into P2 in the championship, because Sebastian Job didn't score many points this round at all. So is that something you're focusing on, the championship itself, to try to win that, or is that just something you're putting to the side right now? Are you just focusing on that top 10 result?
I think, yeah, definitely from round 1 through to the end of this season, I'm just going to be focusing on trying to get that consistent top 10. It seems that if you're top 10 in top split, you generally end up in the top 10 at the end of the season, and we've had a really good start. So I'd like to keep this consistency going. I'm not really too worried about race wins. Obviously tonight was an incredibly good result for me, but yeah, I'll just try and get through and then focus on next year, hopefully.
There you go, Will. Josh Rogers, P2, brilliant result for him, and only actually, I mean, 7.5 seconds from a race win too, so didn't go all too badly for him. That just tyre life at the end of the first stints where he lost a lot of time.
No, tyre life, I completely agree. And also, I think one of the things that's worth thinking about there, Jake, is that sometimes teams can understand where people are better, where they're more likely to struggle. And from there, you can actually set your strategy up to more harm your competition than to necessarily gain the most yourself.
You can, and I think that a lot of teams are struggling with tyre life. I think that it is an area that I think everyone is looking to improve on, and I think it's the next big thing to crack. I think the next enigma code that a lot of teams are looking for. You talk about teams like Redline and Coanda who have already got it sorted out, and then you look at those teams who are, I'd say, almost there, like the Cores and Apex, and then you got the teams like Evolution Racing Team coming into this situation looking to try and work out what their tyre issues are. And it's very difficult sometimes. You need to understand what it is that you need to be doing on every given track, at every given moment, on every given temperature. And I think the massive change from qualifying to race temperatures here today really did set the cat amongst the pigeons, Will.
Yeah, we do apologise, by the way, as well, for what you just saw. A random Microsoft Excel moment brought to you by Microsoft Excel. We got another driver with us. That is the driver of Alex Simpson. And Jake, he's the bow of you right now.
Okay, that's certainly fine with me. Alex, hello. You certainly had the race, which I think a lot of drivers don't want to be in on lap 1, but want to be in after turn number 1, having survived an absolute onslaught on the opening lap.
Yeah, hi Jake, good to be here. Yeah, that start, I mean, to be fair, I didn't see a great deal of it. I made my mind up probably like Tuesday or Wednesday, if I was on the inside, that I would get as close to that wall as possible really, really early. I've seen a lot of accidents here where they just seem to carry on to the outside, so I was like, right, get to the inside as quickly as you possibly can, and actually that was a blessing for me, because they just all checked up on that sort of on that right hand lane, and I was just a little bit further over and just sailed straight past. And then of course just watched the replay back and the commotion that followed. Jeez, I didn't realize it was quite that bad, but yeah, I'm just grateful to be out of that and found myself in, I think it was 5th, and after what was the worst qualifying I've ever done, yeah, I was just like, how is this possible? And then just went about my business really. The just tyres I knew were going to be an issue in this weather, so I just sort of maintained them in the early stint and slowly started working my way back up to the leaders. And I thought they pitted a little early, so I was a bit surprised there, and I wanted to go to about 25. I didn't want to go into that much earlier because I was worried about how the rears would be towards the end of the stint. And yeah, so I just jumped in then. I really perhaps needed another lap to, I think, to have jumped Josh. I think pace-wise we were perhaps within a tenth of each other every lap. So with the dirty air around Silverstone just kind of ruins any chance. I was just hoping and praying for a little mistake. And credit to him, I think I saw one twitch the whole second stint. So great drive from Josh.
Yeah, you certainly could say it was a very good drive. And, you know, for yourself, you were put in a situation where you spent the majority of the opening stint on your own, looking to try and build lap after lap. And it seemed that throughout the majority of the second half of the stint, you were closing that gap down more and more. But when you got towards the end of that race, did you start thinking more about the championship more rather than the glory of second position?
A little bit. I mean, my goal obviously in this series is just to get to the World Championship. I really couldn't care too much if it's 1st or 10th. You know, I want that license back. I unfortunately work commitment and whatnot stopped me from racing last year, and I've got the bug back actually, so I'm really enjoying my racing again. And yeah, so I think it was about 10 laps to go. I just spoke to my old man who does all my spotting for me, and I said if you make some mistake, then I'll go, otherwise I'll just sit tight. You know, 3rd place is absolutely fine with me. Yeah, if an opportunity arises, then I'll take it, but otherwise I'm quite content here.
Well, you'll be very content heading into the 4th round of the championship. Of course, you put yourself now up inside the top 5 very firmly. In fact, you could put yourself 3rd in the championship as things stand. So you're heading to Suzuka, a circuit that is similar in some respects with the high-speed nature of the first part and the final part of the lap, but of course that middle section is a very slow to fast section that you normally get to see. So in terms of where you see yourself in Suzuka, do you feel that maybe yourself and maybe a returning Michael Dinkel can make a really big challenge to the guys at the top?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, Suzuka probably my favourite of all the tracks, certainly where I had my best result in the World Championship. And yeah, we should be quite good there. Obviously, Michael knew that he wasn't going to do this race, other commitments, unfortunately. So that crash at Montreal was so severe for him. But he's been working on Suzuka already, so we've got a little bit of a head start there. Unfortunately, the tracks are kind of similar, so a lot of the information I was gaining from working on the set here at Suzuka, at Silverstone, was able to translate over to Suzuka as well. So I feel like we're in a pretty good place there, and yeah, I just hope I do a better qualifying next week.
Well, we'll hopefully make sure to see that one from you. But before we let you go, Mr. Team Boss Alex Simpson, any shout-outs or sponsors?
Yeah, just to the whole team, really. Thank you very much for the support they've put in as well. A lot of the World Championship drivers working behind the scenes to try and help out and give us, data and whatnot to work towards. All the sponsors, Leo Bodner, Pure PC Systems, SDK Gaming, and Precision Sim Engineering.
No worries at all. Alex Simpson then 11th to 3rd, and Will, I'm pretty sure that I think 1% of people, if not less, would have predicted someone outside of the top 10 getting to a podium. A fantastic drive from Alex Simpson today.
I'm actually going to try and see, and it is just that luck that when I tried to do that, the entire program crashes. But I want to try and show you the start here for Alex Simpson in a moment's time. When we have the ability to once again take control of our cameras, we will do so. Because actually, that's one of the things that is worth noting. Exactly how crazy that start was from Alex Simpson. We're on board of him. Go straight to the right. There's the incident that you could see. Staying on the right-hand side of the racetrack. A lot of people went left, thinking the grass will be safer. Then you can see the wiggle from the positive sim racing car as well. That is what put Alex Simpson up so high, so quickly. It's that time I'm going to start talking about driver of the day. And I think there really is only two candidates here today, Johnny. You've got Alex Simpson and Ricardo Orozco.
You do. Well, Freddie Rasmussen won the race, so
we expected him.
He's technically the quickest driver. Yeah, I know. He's technically the quickest driver. I want to give it to actually Ricardo Orozco, only because I want to get punched in the face by Josh Rogers in the same room. Ricardo Orozco is, I mean, what an event. To be 57th in the championship, now he's 25th, P4. But the reason why I'm giving this award to him is because he was only 17 seconds away from the win from Freddie Rasmussen, a.k.a. one of the best sim racers in the world. So, brilliant result for him, and I'm more than pleased with that, surely.
Jake, driver of the day for you?
Oh, I'm going to go different. I'm going to say Josh Thompson, because you don't often make 19 positions during a race. And not only that, Josh Thompson did so by being very calm when it came to making his moves, not being afraid to let the positions go to drivers who are quicker, and keeping himself in a position where in the final few laps, he had a charging Boris Spolstra behind him and still managed to keep him at bay by 3 seconds. My driver of the day is Josh Thompson.
I would actually say as well that a contender for me would have been Moritz Lohner as well, Jake, because we saw him pretty much every battle going on in your mid-pack all day long. And this guy was losing places, gaining places, racing with heart, and not allowing himself to get too, what I like to call, frustrated on the racetrack. You could just tell someone would pass him, he'd go back out, and he'd carry on doing it.
And it shows that Moritz Lohner has been learning a lot from Andre Borcher at Hoyksville Motorsports and has been understanding his role within that team and making himself a presence and getting himself inside these top 10 positions, which a lot of drivers don't often get that opportunity to do. And because of that reward, Will, he's now top 5 in the championship overall, and I think he can be very happy with that result.
Well, I'm going to say hopefully at this stage. Here's a look at your championship standings coming out of Silverstone. You see, Excel did some work for us in the background. Frederick Rasmussen, 961 points. Joshua Rogers has got himself 876. So we came into this race, Johnny, with a very tight championship. It's widened out, but a lot of people need to remember you don't need to worry about winning the championship. You need to worry about being in your top 10. Right now, there is a total of 412 points between P1 and P10. That means the guys inside the top 10 coming out of Silverstone have a little bit of breathing room, is what I'm going to say. You have a look down to P11. The driver in P11 has got himself a total of 549 points. Tied Alex Sadler right now with the driver in P number 10, Carl Wilkner. So that means that when you come outside of your top 10, it is so close. You got Ficarra, Thompson, Williams, Preto, Domingo, all within 50 points.
Yeah, this is seriously tight. I mean, the top few positions are almost a bit boring now because we know that those drivers are going to make it. Like Rasmussen, Rogers, Simpson, Job, they're all going to make it through into the top 10 unless things go dramatically wrong. But you look down the order and, you know, Michael Partington, 6th. It seems like he's had the worst Pro Series in the world, and he's 6th in the championship. He's been very good, Michael Partington. Preston, with that DNF, he's also been insanely quick. So, I mean, look at some names that are missing out at the moment. David Williams, I'm looking at. Van Loosenor down there as well. I'm just trying to think about how you can't send all these names to the World Championship. There's only 10 that can go through. There are going to be tiers at the end of this Pro Series for sure next year, come Nürburgring.
Especially as there's 108 drivers who have actually scored a point so far. Tanguy Pedrozzoli, last with 2 points. I want to focus on 1 point very quickly, actually, before we go any further, Jake. And this is on Freddie Rasmussen. And the question for me right now is, where is Freddie Rasmussen inside the top 10, 20, 25 drivers in all of iRacing today? Because he is a part of a Blancpain GT winning team. He is currently scored at the top of the mountain in the Pro Series. If he does get through to the World Championship Grand Prix Series, I wouldn't be surprised to see him getting podiums in 2018. But where does he stand right now in terms of, where would you rank him?
I'm not obliged to answer that question because I'm answering that question in a month's time.
But I want an answer now.
You'll have to wait and watch the sim and look at the Sim Racing Observer.
Okay, so give us a ballpark. If nothing else, give us a ballpark.
You're looking very, very high up.
Okay. Johnny, you might give me a straight answer.
What? I wasn't even listening to the question.
Okay. You're doing a Rachel on me right now. Freddie Rasmussen, if you were to rank him,
yes,
and alongside all the best active iRacers in the world right now, where would you put Freddie?
He's definitely in my top 5. I feel like I'm insulting him when I say top 5, but top 5 at least. The thing you find with a lot of sim racers is sometimes you're good in different cars, so who knows where other drivers go in the GT cars. Some drivers are better in the McLaren than others. We'll find out next year where Freddie is in 2018 in the World Championship, because he is going to make it for sure. Spoiler alert. At the same time, Bottas Haas is faster in different sims as well. There's just top 5, definitely 100%. Sorry for the long answer, but it's not as easy to just rank it that way, if that makes sense.
Makes sense indeed. It's time, however, to end today's broadcast on a slightly sad note. Many of you who are a fan of us on RaceBot TV on Facebook will know that a couple of days ago we lost one of our own commentators, John Granger. Now, John had only been a part of the RaceBot team for about a year or so. He'd worked with us in a number of our endurance podcasts, did some work with me and other things like the Classic IndyCar series as well. And Johnny, it's always sad to hear of anyone in the sim racing community passing away. But for John, he was a part of the RaceBot family through and through, and very sad to hear the news, taken away so young.
No, definitely. I mean, that was shocking news when I found out, and someone who I did a couple of broadcasts with last year, and just so much talent, he had so much passion in the motorsport industry, and you just don't think this kind of stuff can happen to someone until it does, and especially to one of our own at RaceBot 2. And as I said, he's just so passionate and involved in the motorsport community, just wanted to achieve so much, and he's young like all of us, just trying to be prosperous as much as he can. So rest in peace to John Granger, a very humble fellow.
And Jake, I mean, you and I, we both come from the same kind of kettle of fish. We were young people that wanted to make a difference, wanted to make a name for ourselves in sim racing. John was exactly the same. He always wanted to not just be the best he could be, but be the best team player as well, and really help make the broadcast. And the one thing I always remembered is he was so hot on the little things like strategy calls, understanding where people were in a stint, understanding, the way the race will be panning out in 4 hours from now. And it takes a very, very special individual to be able to do the work that he did.
I totally agree with you. And it comes as a shock to everyone here at RaceBot, exactly hearing what happened to John in the end. And it will be a shock to John's family as well when you get right down to the end of it. But in terms of talent and in terms of underrated talent as well, John Granger goes up there as one of the broadcasters who arguably was underrated, probably would have had the best transition to a real-world position, very similar to the likes of a Scott Woodwis, you could say, in that sort of sense. And it is a shame when he was involved right up until the very end. I know that Florian Reuter was writing with him, a driver from the Jim Racing team. So I think everyone is saddened, is shocked, especially at such a young age as well. And I think going out in your early 20s is no way to end your life. But, you know, these are the hard facts and the hard truths about it. And all we can do is say, it was nice knowing you.
Indeed so. Our broadcast today is dedicated to John Granger for all the fantastic work that he had done on not only RaceSpot, but in terms of the sim racing community. His passion for endurance series racing was fantastic. And the one thing I always remember is I never had the chance to meet him at Silverstone back when we had ourselves the World Endurance Championship back in April. One thing I'll always think about is I only wish I did actually have that chance to meet him in person. That, ladies and gentlemen, is all we're going to have time for. This has been the third round of the iRacing Pro Series from Silverstone. Fredrik Rasmussen wins the race. He leads the championship, and in a week's time, we head ourselves over to Suzuka. Goodbye for now. We'll see you all next time.